All right, I think we can go ahead and get this party started. Why don't we? Switch on over. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our next Amphibia and Owl House discussion stream. I am joined once again by my buddy, my good friend, and my guest as always, Tom from Curmudgeon Media. Tom, you want to say hi to everyone?
Oh my God. I'm off to a great start.
That was hit the ground running today. Why don't we?
Off to just a fantastic start.
Great start.
Hello.
Our Blast is here. Hello, Hype. Welcome. Juliana's here. Hello, welcome. Thanks so much for joining. Magical's here again. Thanks so much for joining. I feel like the Lumity half of the episode felt like a nod or notice to the fans. Yeah, absolutely. They were making fun of us for sure this episode. Hyrule is here as well. Hello, and Zoe. Hello, I'm Gay. Welcome, Gay. I'm Covey, and I'm here with Tom, and we're here to talk about the Owl House. Yes, Mudgy's in my chat as well. Yeah, so this episode was super duper cute. We definitely got kind of a shift from the last episode. You know, Robin is here as well. Hello. The last episode we got a lot of story, a lot of plot, a lot of lore dumps. This one was a lot more chill, a lot more wholesome, a lot more low key, a lot more like low stakes, right? Which I really enjoyed. I was glad to kind of get back to just like the wholesome teen shenanigans. And I really love Hunter. Hunter is like easily one of my favorite characters in the show, just because he's so
such as like a pitiful, pathetic little man.
He's
and I
such
love him.
a sad little loser boy, and I love him. And the way that his character just like always reflects the character that he is interacting with is always really interesting to me. Hi, Gem Princess. It's always really interesting to me because, you know, in Hunting Palisman, he was really like a reflection and a foil to Luz in that episode. And then in Eclipse Lake, he was very much like a reflection and a foil to Amity in a lot of ways. And now in this episode, clearly we're getting a lot of like parallels and reflections to Willow. So I'm really interested to see how this relationship develops. And, yeah, obviously with Luz and Amity as well, to see how that friendship is going to develop. And I'm really just excited to see Hunter's character arc. I think it's going to be really interesting and really fun, and maybe a little sad because we know that this boy is going through some stuff.
I just like that, like when he was first introduced, he was kind of intimidating with
Right.
the mask and everything. And then the second the mask came off, and it's like, oh wait, no, he's just a scrawny little fucking, oh my God. I swore. I told you I wouldn't swear. I'm gonna try my best.
It's okay.
I chewed that one. He's just like this scrawny little dork.
Yeah, he's a dork.
This pitiful little dork. Zena Robinson voices a character in My Hero Academia called Hawks, who's like the polar opposite of this character in every way. Hawks is so like cool and stone cold and like just Hunter's the opposite of all of that.
Yeah. Oh, he's a dork and I love him.
He's just a little Dorcas. And Magical Fine Rain, I am feeling a little better. Thank you for asking.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, Hunter is working on his little Golden Guard cosplay here, sewing his patch into his cloak. So we saw this cloak before, but the patch is kind of new, right? And before we get into the actual story, I just do want to acknowledge that this patch, this bird,
we've seen it before.
Yes, we have seen this before. This little bird icon was on Earth in yesterday's live on the Gravesfield sign. We saw this bird, and I think it's in one other place. I can't remember where else we've seen this, but it is in one other place. And
you see it on someone's clothing. I think it's on like Philip's clothing. I think you can see like a little version of it, but I might be wrong.
Something like that. Yeah, it's something related to Philip or Bellows or something like that. So basically, we're getting more evidence, right, that there's some connection between Hunter and Philip, Hunter and maybe Philip's brother, maybe something going on there. So, you know, bring it up. Hold on, I still have the image. Bring up the theory image, you know, Hunter. It's connected. It's all connected.
It's not quite like a lore dump, also known as a lump.
Yeah.
It's just like a sprinkling of lore, also known as a splore.
Yeah. Yes, just a little lore sprinkle, little
It's a little splore, not quite a lump, just a little splore,
little
you know?
slur, yeah. Um,
People sometimes we don't need a lump, we just need a splore.
exactly, exactly.
Put that on a t-shirt.
So Hunter is here trying to fix his little patch, and it obviously is not going well. The little threads stick out, and he's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? This boy has never learned how to sew. He does not have YouTube to look up tutorials to help him, and he does not know what he's doing to fix his patch. And you know, this patch is obviously like kind of symbolic within this episode of this character arc of Hunter reflecting on like his own like self-worth, right? Like he's trying to earn this patch, he's trying to earn this title, he's trying to be someone who like he can feel like proud to wear this, right? And so this is like something that is like an internal struggle for Hunter throughout this episode, and will kind of continue for his arc, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting that his predecessor was alive recently enough to have been Darius's mentor.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll definitely touch on that.
Daddy Darius.
Daddy Darius. Darius was so daddy in this. I am 100% for Daddy Darius, and we'll get to it. We'll get to Daddy Darius. I have lots to say about Daddy Darius. So these guards end up, you know, knocking on the door for Hunter, and he gets a letter, right, from Bellows, and this is like really intimidating, right? Obviously there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of like anxiety when it comes to Bellows, right? And so Bellows gives Hunter this letter saying, you know, my duties are keeping me busy, but go, you know, lead the coven heads and consider this a test, right? So obviously like Hunter, we know that he has been like going after Bellows's approval, and that's like something that he desperately wants, right? And so seeing this like opportunity to kind of prove himself, right? He's kind of like geared up. He's like ready to go. This is something that's like really important to him.
Indeed. I have absolutely nothing to add to that except for indeed.
No, that's okay. I'm also just reading the chat. Hey Soon, welcome. No worries if you don't really want to participate too much. If you want to just hang around, that's totally fine too.
Take care of yourself. Go get a mug of cocoa.
Yes.
And relax and sit in and just vibe.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Anyone who's out there just watching and not participating in the chat, you're valid, and I see you and I appreciate you.
I mean, you don't actually see them. I mean, it would be very creepy if you did.
Well, I can see the number of viewers, and in that way, I can see you.
I can see each and every one of you.
I'm in your walls. Anyway.
I'm peeking in through the window.
Also, hi Shia. Thanks for being here. Yes, Daddy Darius. Yeah, so we get to Hunter, right? He's trying to be all boss man. He's trying to like show his authority, and he's like ready to lead these coven heads. And we also kind of learn a little bit more about the kind of environment that is around these like coven heads, and you know, this kind of environment that Bellows has fostered between these like leaders, right? Because like it's very cutthroat, it's very competitive, like no one really trusts each other, right? And we kind of hear this later on too, when Hunter kind of expresses this is the way like friendship works, right? Because this is kind of the environment that he's used to.
That's interesting, isn't it? The idea that they're a collective, but they don't exactly get along.
Exactly.
Which
yeah.
inevitably is, I imagine, will foil Bellows' plans in some way.
Right, exactly. I think that this will kind of come back to bite Bellows in the butt sometime. We get a tiny little crumb. I know we talked a little bit off stream about, you know, our kind of frustrations with Rain and how they're using their character, and we get tiny little crumbs of Rain in this episode. We see this kind of just glance that Rain has back at Hunter before Terra Snapdragon pulls them along, right? And so I really do wish we got more of Rain in either this episode or in a past episode or in a future episode. I know that we're getting a backstory at some point, but I do wish that we had more Rain up until this point too. And but we go ahead.
We were talking about this behind the scenes. And I don't know if you concur, but like at this point, I like Darius more than Rain, and Darius has had more characterization than Rain.
I really like Darius. Darius is a really fun and interesting character, and yeah, he's gotten this kind of interesting development so far, and we've only seen him in like 2 episodes, so it's a shame that he seems to have kind of more personality and characterization than say Rain.
Yeah,
And
he's just like allowed to exist outside of being a plot device, which currently
right.
Rain unfortunately isn't.
Yeah, which is probably a result just from the fact that Disney had to cut so many episodes and stuff like that, which is
Yeah,
a shame. But yeah, this is our kind of continued biggest complaint for this show is just the
is Rain.
underutilization of Rain. Like,
And it's like we talked before about the idea of because I was reflecting on a small webcomic I saw of Rain and Hunter like interacting, and this episode it would have been really interesting to see if they'd swapped out Darius with Rain instead. And obviously the rudiments of the episode would have to be written fundamentally differently, but if it had been exploring their relationship instead, it would have been very interesting. But I'm not
right,
unhappy with what we got. Like Darius
right,
rocks. He's great.
yeah, yeah.
And he's hot.
Yeah, he is daddy, right, in many senses of the word. But yeah, I love Darius. I love the relationship that Darius and Hunter seem to be developing. But yes, I do wish that we got more Rain. We got this one tiny crumb of Rain looking back at Hunter. So we do know that there's some kind of conflict going on with Rain, right? Obviously, they like want to do the right thing somewhere deep down inside, but they're being like brainwashed by Tara. Yeah, I have my opinions about that. We'll see how it goes. But in the meantime,
because we know that like them being brainwashed, like we know it's not like completely destroying any sense of agency at all. Like
right,
it's wiping their memory a bit and maybe skewing their allegiance a bit. But like Rain is still uploading to Penstagram.
right, exactly, yeah, exactly,
They're still like their own person to a degree. Like
right.
there's still a sense of character and personality there. We're just not being shown it, and that's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be nice to kind of get those moments and see that a little more. But hopefully we get that in the near future. We in the meantime, Darius and Everwolf are here. We see the abomination of automatons here. They've got this kind of like board and presentation and all these scrolls and stuff going on, and they have called off the meeting, right? They decided, no, today we're all too busy and we don't want to do the meeting. And Hunter's annoyed at that, right? He's like, we scheduled to have a meeting and this was like his opportunity to prove himself. And I love that Darius calls Hunter Little Prince. I don't know why, that just like really tickles me. He's such like this like smug kind of like pompous dude, right? And like him calling like Hunter this like this condescending little nickname. It's just very funny. It's fun.
He to me, he is really the opposite. I know he's actually got like a rivalry with Alador, but I think that I think Dana has written Alador and Darius in a very specific way to sort of toy with our expectations. I really hold the fact that I don't think Alador is a good guy. I think people who think he's the good guy aren't paying enough attention.
Right.
I think he's been written to be disarming.
Right.
But ultimately, I think he's a bad guy. I think he's not a good person at all. Now Darius is the opposite, where Darius appears very like conniving and Machiavellian and
uncaring
evil,
and cold.
Uncaring and cold and evil and intimidating, but actually in reality that's all just like an act,
right? Exactly.
He actually cares a lot.
Yeah so I really like that. I really like that,
to the point where even in the end, like he's threatening these kids and it's like, oh my god, this guy, he's bad news. But then it's like, no, he was just like, he was never going to hurt them. He was just, that was all dramatic flair. He was just going to take him back to Hexside.
He's just really freaking extra, which I also love about him. Like he's so like just unnecessarily like flamboyant, and I love that.
My prediction, and this is like a soft prediction because you can never really know where these shows are going.
Right.
This is less of a prediction and more of just something I personally would love to see. Alador, bad guy. Darius, good guy.
Yeah.
I want to see them fight. And I want to see Darius kick Alador's ass.
I do too. I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Like Alador and Odalia have been bought out by the Emperor. Like we know that. I don't know what their allegiance will be like in the end in terms of their interest with their children. But like, I would still love to see Alador and Darius fight, with Alador as the villain and Darius
Of
as the
course.
anti-hero.
Yeah, I would love that. I kind of feel like they might be building to that, but I would really love to see that.
It would just be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Darius
do
is
really
great.
like Darius. Darius is a super fun character. We decided to reschedule the meeting. He says, right, go play your arts and crafts or whatever you do, right? Like, oh, is Darius a little anyway? But he goes, he's telling Hunter to go play. Like, so Darius is interesting, right? He's been kind of established to be this coven head, and we saw him, fighting Ida and Rain in Ida's Requiem, and we kind of got this impression, right, that he's more apathetic than he is evil, right? And he's more self-interested than he is like interested in serving Bellows, right? Which is interesting. And I think like a little bit of that is also continued on in this episode, right? Like especially at the end. But I really do like that he has this kind of he does have this like relationship with Hunter, right? Like he kind of sees him as like this little boy, right, who all he's done so far in his life is like, oh, he just follows the rules and he's just like this perfect little obedient boy, and he kind of learns, that Hunter is more than meets the eye by the end of the episode. But he starts here making fun of Hunter's poor sewing skills. This is impressively bad. This is the Golden Guard sigil. So we do get an interesting line here, right, where Darius is like, oh, you're just a nephew. I knew your predecessor. The previous Golden Guard was my mentor, one of the strongest witches I'd ever known. So this is interesting, right? This is kind of the first indication that we're getting that like Golden Guard is more of like a position, a title, than it is like Hunter's, Hunter's nickname or whatever. So there was a previous Golden Guard before. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's going to come back in any meaningful way. I feel like it has to, otherwise they wouldn't have dropped it here, right? So if anyone has any predictions as to who the previous Golden Guard was, I'd be interested to hear your theories.
Darius is a friend of Mara. Well, Darius does, the voice actor who voices Darius does do the voice of Horde Prime, doesn't he?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
So I guess Darius, I mean, Horde Prime is not a friend of Mara, but I think Darius is probably a friend of Mara.
I think so.
You have no idea what we're talking about, but just...
I'm pretty sure it means he's gay, but...
That's not what it... Is that what that means?
I thought that's what that meant.
I thought they were making a reference to She-Ra, but I guess She-Ra is like the gayest show ever, so I guess it's an extension of that. I guess that means he's gay. He's got powerful energy.
Yeah.
Powerful friend of Mara energy.
Yes. So Darius says, I say you don't deserve to wear that patch, right? And obviously this hits Hunter really deeply, and then he says, like, what should I do? How should I earn it? So Hunter is like this character, right, that is like so desperate for outside approval. And like I do wonder if him and Darius have like had these kind of previous interactions before, because like we know that Hunter wants Bellows' approval, right? Like that's something that's been established. That's something that like is really hammered home about Hunter and his character. But like in this episode, he's also like kind of desperate for Darius's approval as well. So I do wonder if there has been like an established relationship between them before. But even if there wasn't, like just this need for Hunter, right, to have this like outside approval, to like feel good about himself, is something that is like very much a core of like his character in this episode.
Well, it has been confirmed that friend of Mara does mean gay. I feel ashamed for not. I feel ashamed for not knowing this incredible euphemism.
That's really funny.
I feel like I should have known that.
That's really funny.
I'm gonna have to issue like an apology video.
Yeah, that's right.
With me just like it'll have a picture of me like wiping a tear away from my eye, and the title will be "Taking Accountability." And I'll just be like,
the goal of your content is always to entertain. The goal of my content
is always to entertain.
Oh my gosh! If nobody gets that reference, you're missing out. Anyway, so Darius, he tells Hunter that the way that he can earn the patch, right, is to go along and find some more recruits for the Emperor's Coven, right? Like this is a little silly, but we know that Darius, he's just trying to kind of like get Hunter off his back, right? Like Darius is he's like, he doesn't really care. He's apathetic. He just like wants to be left alone, and he wants to go do his little like, spa treatment day or whatever he does, later in the episode.
Indeed, the tragically interrupted spa day.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I also want to acknowledge sheep slash jellyfish. Let me know what you want me to call you. If I might just call you sheep because I can't remember everyone's names all the time. But I'm glad that Hunter's redemption arc is giving him developing a platonic support group. Yeah, I totally agree that I'm glad that Hunter is like making friends in this episode. So I'm really happy to see that.
Friends who would stand up for him when
Yeah,
push comes to shove. And I honestly, I include Darius in that sentence.
I do too.
I
Um,
really think if Bellos were to ever put Hunter in danger, I think if anything would have pushed Darius over to kind of turning against the Emperor, it would be that.
yeah.
I feel like Darius would would defend him.
Yeah, so we get this kind of first indication of like Darius and Hunter's relationship, right? Like, so Darius sees Hunter as like this obedient little boy, right? Like you're very good at doing exactly what you're told, and Darius is saying this as kind of like a burn to Hunter, right? But Hunter doesn't really quite get that because he is still like so desperate for like other people's approval. Like that's what he thinks is like he should be doing, right? Like he should be doing
Yeah.
what other people tell him to do. So he doesn't see this like comment from Darius as like an insult the way that Darius is like saying it to him, which is interesting.
It's interesting. Something else that's interesting is that the episode begins with a note from Bellows saying, "Consider this a test," but really the person doing the testing was Darius.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting.
Bellows is off, you know, gallivanting who knows where.
Who knows? Um, so we get a quick short intro this week. There's a lot to get to in this episode, so we get a little bit of a shorter intro, and then I love this opening sequence that we get after the intro with Willow, with like this kind of like 80s montage, like training music going on in the background, and then we see Willow. She's like doing sit-ups, and we see like this voiceover saying like after years of thinking it wasn't good enough, and then here she is doing her like plant CrossFit training, right? And she's like breaking a sweat. Like Willow, I'm so happy that we got a Willow episode finally. Like I know that we were so desperately like waiting for a Willow episode this whole season, and we're finally getting a Willow centric episode. I of course have to reference Buffy the Vampire Slayer in every single stream that we do, so I just have to say that Willow is the name designated for fierce, loyal nuggets who are just so squishy and adorable, but will absolutely kill you and kick your ass if you cross them. I know, Tom, we're still in only of season 2 of Buffy, so you've yet to kind of see the Willow of Buffy's character growth, but she does grow to be quite a badass, and so I feel like Willow is reserved for the characters who are nuggets on the outside and just cold-blooded killers on the inside.
I can't abide the fact that they make this explicit, like this whole opening bit is like an explicit reference to Rocky, to the movie
Right?
Rocky.
Yeah, totally.
And you took that as CrossFit. And that makes me very sad.
I'm sorry. I mean, obviously, it's meant to kind of like reference those '80s like movie training.
But it's very
montages,
specifically,
right?
it's very specifically
Like Rocky, yeah.
it's very specifically a montage from Rocky, which is a really good movie, by the way, and everybody should see it. But then she says, "Eye of the not tiger, but something else.
I have the liger." Yeah,
I don't even know what that is.
it's probably
but
yeah.
obviously that's a Rocky reference.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know what a liger is.
Yeah. It might be just a Boiling Isles equivalent, but yeah. So Willow has this character arc, right, where she's she we know that she's like been really insecure in the past, right? Like she has not been the best at magic, especially when she was trying to do abomination magic, which wasn't like her strong suit. She was often called half a witch Willow by people like Amity and like the people bullying her, right? So we know that this is an ongoing character arc for Willow where she's trying to like find her self-confidence, right? And like find out like where she belongs, what she can do, what she's good at. And we did get this moment in a previous episode already, right, where Amity changed Willow's hair. Willow has like this cool green streak in her hair now. She's got these cute braids. So I feel like this new hairstyle, right, is indicative of like this growing character arc of Willow and how she's like gaining this confidence, right? But obviously like the path to self-confidence is never just a straight linear one, right? So I really like that about this episode, that like even though Willow is like grown so much since we've seen her in season 1, and like she's like developed so much as a witch and as a person, as a character, like I think it's realistic, right? To have moments of doubt and to like have moments of faltering and to kind of struggle with that garnering of that self-confidence. And I really like to see like that struggle from Willow in this episode.
Yeah, and it's nice to see it kind of propped up against a similar, not I don't know if similar is the right word, but like a parallel arc with Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%,
This
right?
whole like yeah, the Hunter Willow part of this episode is actually really well written.
Yes.
The loose and Amity part is fun, but it feels very tacked on to the side. I feel like we touched on this a little before about the idea of B plots actually
Right.
connecting to the A plot in some way.
Right.
I feel like we're probably going to see a lot of not that, and I think the reason for that, I suspect, is that concepts that they originally wanted to be full episodes,
Right.
before they got their time cut, before they got cancelled, um, those have ended up being reduced to B plots and just sort of tacked on. Like the ones that they
Right.
really wanted to do. Like I can imagine there having been like a full episode, which was like, oh my goodness, um, Luce and Amity try to track down the author of the Azura books.
Right.
And oh, it's Tibbles again, and Tibbles is like he's been a like a small time baddie in 2 other episodes. It's like, oh, he's back, he's the bad guy. Um, and
Right.
some hijinks ensue. I feel like it was probably planned to actually be an episode.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine that like, if we had like say 10 episodes with like A plots and B plots, maybe some of them have like tiny C plots. I can imagine like, if the writers had to take a look at those 10 episodes and be like, okay, we have to cut this down to 5 episodes now just because we have to. Like I can imagine
Yeah.
them like picking and choosing, right? Okay, we'll take like the A plot from this because it's important and the B plot from this because it's important and try to fit those together. So yeah, I can imagine like the original plan was to have more A plots and B plots that like went together, that like fit more, like made more sense together. But just for the sake of like getting through the plot and getting through time, I can imagine they had to like kind of shift those pieces around for sure.
Yeah,
I did
off the
want to
top of my head.
pause. Yeah, I did want to
I
pause.
was just my theory.
Yeah, for sure. I did want to pause on this just little adorable little like newspaper clipping that we got. Willow, she decides that she wants to become a flyer derby player. Flyer derby, of course, is a different sport to Grudgeby, so I like that we're getting multiple different magical sports. I think that's really cool. And then we see this really cute like little clip, right? This photo that she has of her dad's. Her dad's playing flyer derby and like their old team, and it's just super cute. I really love that we just get these little moments here, and Willow like looking up to her dad's is just like really sweet. And yeah, a lot of people pointed this out, and I agree that it's just adorable.
I like that her dads knew each other since they were kids.
Right, that's so cute. Let me read the chat here for a second. Don't know why the Lumity subplot was there. They definitely needed to get them out of the plot for Hunter and Willow to work. I did like the Lumity subplot.
It was fun. It wasn't connected, but it was still fun. Like,
Yeah, it was still fun.
I'm happy with it.
And I do think like, our biggest kind of like struggle with the show up until this point, or at least, I'll speak for myself. Like something that I was kind of struggling with season 2 in particular was we weren't getting as much of just like those characters just getting to exist, moments and plot lines. And so I did like that we did have a Lumity subplot that didn't have any real stakes to it. Like I like that they just got to exist and like be a couple and like just hang out and like just be normal teenagers for an episode. But like, yeah, it does feel a bit odd with like how much plot had to like be kind of shoved into like some of these episodes. Like, oh, this episode we're gonna like take it easy, right? So I can kind of see like the criticism there, but like I did like that we had like just a low key plot with Lumity.
I'm never unhappy to see Lumity. They're fun.
Yeah, me too. They're just cute always, and I just like love seeing them be girlfriends.
And I also like seeing Boscha getting completely ignored because no one
Yeah.
they don't care about her anymore. Like she's
No.
like so irrelevant to them. They literally like don't pay her any attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's see. Luce and Amity out of the picture so that Willow could be with Hunter. Yeah, for sure. Realizing waiting to realize that the author was somehow a bad person. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Tune. Maybe it could have, but I did like the Lumity subplot.
Yeah, I kind of simultaneously agree and disagree with Toon there. I think that's like
Yeah,
a completely fair criticism. That's the trouble with having a B plot that's disconnected, is it will inevitably have that effect of like, oh, we're going over here now.
right,
They're dragging us
exactly,
away over here.
exactly.
Um, you know, where if it were connected, then you wouldn't have that feeling. It would feel like it would flow a lot better. But at the same time, I just like Lumity. I like seeing him, so
Yeah,
it didn't
that's how I felt about it.
personally bother me too much.
We got this cute little interaction, right, with like Gus and Luce running away from like a locker that's trying to eat them, and
We've all been there.
we've all been there, am I right? And then
Classic.
Willow, like the badass she is, they go hide behind Willow, and her with just one little twirl of her finger, right? She takes this thing down, and so we're kind of seeing this growth, right, from Willow, and how she's more confident in her magic, more capable in her magic, and that's why we try not to keep our lunches in the lockers. That was pretty funny line from Gus.
She is the top of the group.
She is, absolutely, absolutely. So they're doing like a club kind of day at school, and Luce is like, mayhaps you'll join me and Amity in the Azura book club, right? Which sets up their B plot. I do like that we're getting the Azura book club, right? Like it's something that we got kind of teased about in season 1. And yeah, I really just enjoy Luce and Amity just getting the opportunity to be girlfriends and like just be adorable and cute little gay witches together.
Also known as Gitches.
I feel like that sounds offensive for some reason.
Honestly, like with this weird thing I do with words, like sometimes some of them come out and they just don't
They just
they
don't
don't
sound
sound too
right.
good.
um, I love Willow's little setup here. Like, I am interested in something with a little more drama. What did she say? Drama, flair, and face paint is what she said. And Luz is just like, I am so excited to hear the next words coming out of your mouth. Right? I really love Willow and Luz's friendship. Right? Like they're just so supportive, and like I love how excited Luz is like for Willow. Yeah, I really love their friendship so much.
I can hear, I don't know what that sound is, but I can hear like a thumping coming through your microphone.
It might have been my cat.
It's still going.
It's still going.
Is the cat still there? I don't know.
She did walk away. But if it's still going at this point, I don't know.
What do you mean it sounds oh, right. Gitches. It does sound like a slur, doesn't it? Maybe Gitches is one that we should just like put in a box and
yeah, let's not let's just to be safe. So Willow says that she is going to start Hexide's flyer derby team. She's really excited. She's really pumped, and I love how she's ready to go, right? But of course, she does have these little flickers of doubt that we'll kind of see come up, right? I just love all these little like background like bits too, right? Like Screech and debate is funny. Arts and witchcraft is it's silly, right? The silly little wordplay in the show is always really good. Are you cruising for a bruising? Sign up today. Flyer derby. Willow puts like a bunch of flowers on her sign, which is super cute. And we also get the return of Willow's little palisman and also Gus's palisman, right? All the palisman. I love the palisman.
Mumbledy bee.
Yeah, it's so cute. It's a little obvious why Hexide has been downplayed in season 2, but I miss seeing Hexide be active. Yeah, it's nice to get these little bits of Hexide every so often. So Basha shows up, right? Basha, the homophobic bully. I also just want to point out the more of the background gags. I just when I saw this the first time, this Mona Lisa with one eye, it reminded me of Pleakley from Lilo and Stitch. I don't know. It just looks like Pleakley to me.
Is what I'm wondering is your like is your thingy, your like popper guard, is that like touching the surface of your microphone, or is like the cable of your headphones touching the desk or something? Because it's quite loud. The like thumping.
Let me know in the chat if you guys hear anything. I did try
to. Yeah, Shia said she could hear it as well.
Here too. Oh.
I don't know what it is. Like maybe there's a little gremlin.
Oh, you know what? My stream is like frozen. Hang on, let me see. Technical difficulties.
difficulties.
Okay, well, at least my video is back. It might have been... I am not tapping my foot. I am, like, completely, totally still right now. I unfortunately don't know what it is, so I can't fix it. It might just be, like, my mic.
I wonder if it
freaking
was
out.
the popper guard, because you've moved that, and that has stopped.
Okay.
The thumping has stopped.
Okay, so at least if it's a little better, then we'll keep going. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna hope that we're okay and we're just gonna keep going.
Yee.
So Basha, you know, she is like trashing Luz, she's trashing Azura, and she like points out the fact that this cover is like really like cheesy or whatever. I think she's just being homophobic because there's a rainbow on it and she hates the gays. Luz says not judging a book by its cover is a baby rule, even babies know, right? You don't read Azura for the art. There's so much magic in the words, she says, right? And then Basha ends up reading an excerpt from the prose, and it's like just very...
It's really bad.
It's really bad. It's really flowery and just garbage and doesn't really say anything. And Luz is like, okay, the prose can be ornate, but it's about the emotions and the convoluted magic system, right?
I feel like that's tell Basha to shut up.
A nice little bit of a meta joke right there. The convoluted magic system and the smell of the pages, she says before sticking her face right into the book, which is quite funny. And then I love when Amity shows up. Like basically, Basha is just like she just doesn't exist anymore, which I thought was really funny. But you know, Amity shows up. She's like in a huff, right? She's here saying like the author of Zura is having a signing, right? And like immediately, I was just like, what? What are you talking about? And so is Luz, right? Luz is super confused. Basha is just like completely irrelevant at this point, which is quite funny. Yeah, Amity, you know, tries to explain to Luz that, yeah, the author's here at the Book Nook. She's doing a signing, and Luz is super confused because they thought the author was human, and Amity's like, no, she's from the demon realm, right? And then they finally like look at the back of each of their books and they compare them, and they see the author is human on one book, on one version of the book she's got a round ear, and then on Amity's version of the book she has a pointed ear, like a witch, right? So intriguing mystery that we're getting set up here, which we never really seemed to question before, right? Oh, that's right, well, Zoe. I do have to acknowledge that Luz calling Amity Hermosa was very cute. Sorry, go ahead.
Sweet potato.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I'm just gonna make an innocuous comment about the. You know, it's not improbable that they wouldn't have noticed it before, because Amity has her own copy. Right. She's the only person to have bought it from Tibbles.
That's right? True, yeah.
They set up a shop. She's literally the only patron of that shop. And Luz obviously has, I guess, had her own copies.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
God, I don't remember. Did she?
I think
bring any with her.
I think she brought it with her. Because because her mom.
Because Albert stole it.
Yeah, because
right.
Albert stole it
at the beginning. Of course.
That was the whole inciting incident. Yeah. Yeah, I am too, and I'm glad that we got some Basha interaction after Lumity getting together. Basha just getting ignored by Lumity was just so funny to me. She's just such a loser. Yeah, you guys are cute, and I have more friends than you. She like tries to say.
Somebody needs to just kick her in the shin.
Yeah.
You know that bit in Song of the Sea when Sasha kicks Ben in the shin?
Oh yeah.
Somebody needs to do that. Where's Sasha when you need her?
Right.
Kick the homophobes.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. This whole scene with Hunter cracked me up. I love Hunter so much. This socially awkward, just completely socially inept goober, right?
Dork ass loser.
Dork ass loser. Zeno Robinson also, like, I gotta shout him out. He's so funny. He's such a talented voice actor. The delivery of these lines was just so freaking hilarious. I've never actually spoken to witches my age. They're probably into the same things as me, he says, like authority and rules. So funny. And then he approaches this kid, right? What, classmate, even though I've never met you, what if I told you that all your dreams could come true, right? You just have to leave your home and friends and family forever, right? And yeah, it's super funny. Hunter is such a like, how do you do, fellow kids moment, right?
Somebody needs to do like a YTP replacing Hunter's dialogue with just like Steve Buscemi lines from like various movies.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And he tries to approach this group of kids playing cards, and he's like, I hear you get to sleep until 6 a.m., right?
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Terrible.
It's luxury.
And then he gets this like banished card like spit up on his face, right? That was quite a funny visual gag. And then we meet Gerbo, right? Gerbo comes back, and I love I also love this like little subplot that's going on between Gerbo and Viney. That was really fun too. But yeah, Hunter shows up and he's like, "How would you like to rise to the top by joining Emperor's Coven?" Right? And we know that Gerbo is one of those characters that does want to study multiple forms of magic, right? And so he he has this line to Hunter that's like, "Yeah, I want to study different kinds of magic, but why is the Emperor's Coven the only option? I am going to give this system a long overdue update," right? He says, which is so funny. I feel like that's such a thing that like kids say, right? Like about like the system these days. Like, oh man, when I am older and I get in charge of the system, I'm gonna give it an update. And obviously this is like blasphemous to Hunter, who is like completely loyal to the current system. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like so shocked and appalled at the idea that someone could dare like think to question the status quo, right?
But he's starting to question it just a little, just a tiny bit, just a smidge.
I do like that the seed is planted in Hunter's head, right? And I am kind of curious too if this is gonna get followed up on later in the show as well. Like maybe in the future, like we get like a epilogue of some kind, and Gerbo is like the new president of the Boiling Isles or something.
Or kind of like the Mayor Goldie Wilson thing in Back to the Future.
I don't think I know the reference you're referring to, but I'll
Back to the Future.
I watched Back to the Future, but like I don't remember all the details of it.
There's like a whole scene.
Nah.
Sometimes I feel like you just want to hurt my feelings.
Sometimes. Yeah, absolutely too. And this episode is a fantastic exploration of how Hunter functions and what happens when you're completely sheltered, right? And yeah, so Hunter accidentally steps on Puddle's tail, right? Puddles is the griffin that Viney takes care of, and he's like getting all screeched at it. And then in the meantime, Willow is trying to get people to sign up for her flyer derby team. She's like handing out these pamphlets, and she's like really trying to sell it, right? And Professor Hermunculus shows up, right? This is the abomination teacher that was quite mean to Willow, right? In the first season when we saw Willow trying to get a good grade in her abomination class, right? But of course, Willow has switched over to the plant track, and for some reason, this professor is just an asshole and takes that personally and like holds a grudge against Willow. And so he, you know, tries to tell Willow that, you know, he's fine with flying. He's fine with having a flyer derby team, but he just specifically doesn't want Willow to be the captain because he's an asshole for some reason. But I also really liked Gus in this episode. Gus was like such a supportive friend. You know, he was standing up for Willow and really to the professor and to Hunter, right? Like I love Gus, and he's such a good friend, especially to Willow, and he stands up to the professor, right, and says like give her a chance. And the professor does challenge Willow to a flyer derby match. I love this little photo that he shows too, because we just get a nice little Easter egg of a young Principal Bump in the background with his long, luscious, flowing hair. Oh gosh, I love that we just got that little nugget. That just tickled me.
Gotta love him.
Yeah. This episode really does make the Emperor's Coven similarities to the American military system quite clear, especially if you interpret Hunter as a recruiting. Yeah, definitely, Sheep. I think there was a lot of interesting connections there to be made.
This teacher is such an asshole.
He is. Like, he's a freaking teacher, and he's like challenging these little freaking kids to a match, and like he even cheats later in the match. I'm just like, what the hell, man? What's your deal? What's your problem?
Somebody needs to kick him as well.
Yeah, seriously. So Hunter, right, is getting chased by Puddles. He's getting chased by this flying griffin, and Hunter tries to fly away. I love this little bit too, where the griffin steals one of Hunter's shoes, and we see Hunter's sock. Hunter's socks are his talisman, and that is the freaking cutest thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Please protect this boy with every means necessary. He has socks that are his talisman. I can't. This is too cute.
Did he sew them himself? Who made those?
Who made those for him? Please let it be Darius. I would love that.
He got a Secret Santa gift.
Secret Santa socks.
Whatever the Boiling Isles equivalent of Secret Santa is.
Yeah. So Hunter, he shows off his sick flying skills and manages to get his shoe back. But I love how, Willow, she does not take any BS. She, like, if she wants something, she gets it. She wants to talk to Hunter, so she pulls him down. She snatches him out of the sky. She pulls him down into the freaking ground. I love Willow. She's such a badass, and like, she just does not take any BS whatsoever.
He's the top.
She is the top. She absolutely is the top.
She is Melon Lord.
And I love this like little this like kind of fake out moment too, right? Where because we don't know, right? We actually don't know for sure that Willow doesn't know who Hunter is at this point, right? So we don't know if Willow is like about to kick Hunter's ass in this moment, right? She's got the anime like glare over the glasses, right? Kind of evil moment. So we kind of had this like slight fake out moment where we think that Willow's gonna kick his ass, but then she of course switches over to her chomky goober self and is like, want to join my flyer derby team? And yeah, I love Willow. She's such a nugget, and I love her.
Squishy little nugget bab.
She's a nugget. And I love this little handshake that she does with Hunter too. I was actually considering making this the background gif at one point because they're just really cute. Obviously Hunter just like does not know how to handle himself around other kids, and Willow is just excited to see someone who's like that good at flying, right? And she desperately wants to get her flyer derby team to win. So I just love the interaction between these two. Like, it was so unexpected. I think a lot of people, I mean, there were definitely some people who saw this Willow Hunter interaction coming, but I think it was a little unexpected to kind of get this friendship kind of, especially separate from Luz and Amity, right? I really like that though.
And it's already been front loaded as well. Like, I wasn't expecting to get this interaction quite so soon.
Yeah, for sure.
But I welcome it.
Me too. And Gus, of course, is like a little skeptical at first, right? We know that he is being very, very protective of Willow in this episode, and so he's like, "I've never seen you around before." He's skeptical of this new kid, and Hunter, like the dumb idiot baby that he is, thinks that he needs to kind of establish himself first and create this connection with these students first before he can bring up his proposition to join the Emperor's Coven. And so he comes up with this fake alias, right? He calls himself Caleb Jasper Blood Williams, right? Just the first name that comes to his head. This silly little goob does not know how to lie. He glances over at Puddles and is like, I transferred from the toes? He's just trying to come up with something believable. But I'm not here to play fly doobie, he doesn't even know the name of the sport, which is just goes to show how sheltered he is, right?
He's just a little dork.
He's such a dork. He's such a nerd. And Gus like giving him this like stink eye, right? Really just so skeptical and untrusting of Hunter, and Willow saying like, okay, at least take a pamphlet, right? And I do love that, Hunter, he has a good heart, by like at the end of the day, like he is a sweet kid, right? And like this is one of those moments that really just like reminds me of like, he is just like a boy, right? Like he doesn't like say like F off, Willow, like I don't give a crap about your fly doobie or whatever, right? Like when Willow does like ask him nicely and say like, okay, at least take a pamphlet, like he does take one, right? Which I really like. I really like that like Hunter is like this sweet kid at the end of the day, right? But
It's friggin' lonely.
yeah, exactly. And then of course he sees the pamphlet and says a sport for the best and the brightest, right? And of course that's the exact language that he was using earlier with Darius about getting the best and the brightest for the Emperor's Coven. And so he sees this as an opportunity to find people to recruit for the Emperor's Coven, right? And he says
I
maybe we'll give it a try.
honestly, I love how all of this was just like a quest set basically randomly by Darius to get him out of his hair.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the only reason any of this is happening, because he was just like, oh, gotta give this little
Yeah, just
twerp
leave me
something to
alone,
do.
kid. And then Hunter proposes these tests, right, to find the witches for the team. A witches duel, a maze full of traps. Oh, maybe we could leave them at the top of the mountain and see who makes it back to the bottom alive. And then he goes like, haha, classic, right? And we find out later in the episode that this is like the training, right? This is like the base level training that new recruits of the Emperor's Coven have to go through. And yeah, this classic line is brought up again too, and I just thought it was funny. Again, Zeno Robinson, his delivery of these lines was just really, really funny.
Yeah, and also in terms of just on the topic of training, this is a great Steve episode as well.
Yes,
We'll
the
get
return
to
of
that.
Steve.
Ice pack for Steve.
And we continue to see like Hunter and his like lack of social ability, right? With Willow being like, you can show off your sick flying skills, and Hunter being like, I don't feel sick, right? Like he just doesn't understand teen slang. He's like just such a nerd, such a sheltered nerd. Yeah, Darius really said, go make friends, go touch grass.
Go outside.
Go outside.
Please.
Go make a friend. Gus says, hey, I don't know what kind of mission you're on, but this is really important to Willow, right? Like she had a tough year. And I think like this is actually a really important interaction for Hunter, right? Like Hunter does take Willow's motivation seriously in this episode, right? Like, and I think this like line from Gus, I think this line from Gus really did help Hunter to realize, right, like how important this is, right? Because obviously he has his own mission, but like he needs to understand that other people have their own goals, right? And like yeah, I don't know. I just thought that this was an important interaction between Gus and Hunter to really remind Hunter, right? Like this is like also equally as important as your mission. And I think like that was important for him to empathize with Willow, right?
TLDR, Hunter learning social skills.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. What's folks saying in the chat? The maze full of traps they mentioned a few times. Oh, that's right. That's right. Knew that Darius was lying because Ida and Lilith had to fight because the Emperor's Coven didn't have enough space. Yeah, so that's also interesting too. This like idea of the Emperor's Coven and whatnot. But yeah, well, I don't know how relevant that is. So we cut to Amity and Luce, right? They have they are trying to figure out their side of the mystery. They've never questioned before what was going on with the Azura author, why they both have the books, and they start going through like these theories, right? And I just thought like this was like a fun a little bit of a meta gag, right? Definitely kind of poking fun at folks like us, folks like me who sound like a crazy person and are the embodiment of that like I think it's the Always Sunny meme, right? Of the guy with like the red strings on the board, like looking crazy, like
Sylvia.
Yeah, exactly. So this is definitely kind of poking fun, I feel, at those of us who are nerdy theorists, and I do also wanted to point out as well that this subplot was predominantly boarded by Mike Austin, who is a storyboard artist. I think this is his first ever real storyboarding gig, which is really cool. Yeah. I follow him on Twitter.
I kept seeing Mike, and I don't know who that is. I was like, who's Mike? Mike Wazowski?
He's like a Twitter artist. I think he's friends with a couple of folks in like the YouTube cartoon sphere, and so it's really cool to see him get his first credit in the show, which is really fun. Congratulations to Mike.
Mike Mignola.
Yeah, this whole fan theory gag was really funny, Robin. Totally agree. What if the author is Ida and she's been keeping it secret this whole time because she's embarrassed by the spelling errors? And then of course Amity being like, "Oh, that's unrealistic. It's obviously your mom as a teenager got sent back in time, right?" Yeah, all these like really wild, silly theories that are obviously
The theories that we have heard.
But yeah, absolutely, theories that we've heard for sure, for sure.
Like they've been keeping their ears to the ground on this one.
Yeah, this is fun. This is definitely fun. And I see you, Owl House gang, poking fun at us. I see you. Luz, of course, falls to her knees in a very dramatic way when she sees that the book signing has been canceled. I thought it was kind of funny that they even like set up the signing in the first place with like only one person buying the books. Yeah, it was just very silly subplot that I enjoyed. And then we cut back to Willow, right? She is trying to get some more recruits for the Flyer Derby team, and she's like got this little
Flurby team.
The Flurby team. She's got the little presentation that she has planned, right? And then Hunter comes out and he does some sick flying skills, right? He does like a cool like loop-de-loop. And we get this really actually cute moment, right, between another parallel kind of moment between Willow and Hunter, right, where they're both kind of admiring each other's skills, right? Willow is admiring Hunter's flying skills, and she says with him, I think we can get our Derby team approved, and, you know, she's trying to get some more recruits. And then Hunter is also admiring Willow's leadership skills, right, and like her skills as a witch, and says this girl will be a perfect candidate for the Emperor's Coven, right? So I do like that. We did just have this moment of like acknowledging the skill and like the admiration for the other, right? Because that is obviously going to play an important role in their friendship as it continues on.
I like that something this episode does is remind us that Hunter is actually competent. Like he's not completely useless.
Exactly.
Like, he's a dork.
He's a dork.
But he is competent.
He is good at like magic, right? And he is good at just like he's relatively okay in battle too, right? Like obviously Amity can kick his ass, but he can hold his own for the most part. And then we get this kind of like first impression of this team, right? We see Viney, she's like struggling to keep Puddles under control, and then we see Skara, she's like on her phone scrolling, and then she like falls on her head or whatever. And then we see Gus, right? And he's like trying to fly on his palisman, but like as he's trying to fly, his like feet and like the bottom of the palisman are like dragging on the floor, right? And he like can't control it. And obviously this is not a great first impression of this team, right? But Willow, she's like ready. She's excited to like step into her leadership role, and she has this line here, right, where she's like, "I would have been considered the weak link on any team, but now I'm leading one, right?" And she's really like trying to step into this role, right?
She's proud of her little Babs.
She's so proud. I love her. Willow's such a nugget.
A little squishy nugget.
Yeah, definitely. But then Hunter ends up like taking off, right? He sees this ragtag team and is like, "No, I'm out. I am not dealing with this." And then Willow, of course, tries to get him back because she wants this incredibly skilled flyer on her team, and she tries to get him to come back to the field, right? And I actually really liked this interaction. This might have been like one of my favorite moments in the episode where Willow tells Hunter, right, like, you literally just met them, like, give them a chance, because we know that she's been like overlooked, right, and like she hasn't been given that chance, and pretty much everyone on this team, right, has been overlooked in one way or another at some point, right? So she's really saying like, give them a chance here, right? And then Hunter Hunter says, where I come from, even chances have to be earned, right? Which goes to show the relationship that he has with Belos, with the other coven heads, right? And I particularly really like this line too, because I have to give a shout out to the storyboarders, because the framing and the
yeah, I was just about to say the Harvey Dent kind of thing, with the one side of his face reflected and the other side facing the audience.
Yeah, like this framing like really helped hit this line, right? Like the fact that we can see his scar like reflected in the reflection, and like the bars of the window, right, of course, symbolizing this kind of like imprisonment of Hunter. So yeah, I feel like Hunter always has like these really poignant these visuals, especially when he has like these lines that really help kind of hit the emotion, right, what like Hunter is going through and what Hunter is feeling. And I just had to shout that out. It was really well done.
Is it better to die as a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Exactly.
Or in Hunter's case, is it better to be a dork-ass loser or live long enough to actually make some friends and get out once in a while? For God's sake.
Exactly. And then he has this line, right? Especially if you're considered half a witch like me, and I feel like that's important too, right? Because obviously, Hunter has been called half a witch, and Willow has been called half a witch Willow, and that's a very important moment of empathy for both of them, right? We see that Willow has she kind of has this like reaction, right, to Hunter calling himself half a witch, right? And I think like she does see part of herself in him, right? And she sees like part of like what all of these members of the team has struggled with in Hunter, right? And I feel like that is what kind of helps her push him onto the team, right? I think she kind of like sees like, oh, he needs this as much as I need this, right?
Mm.
And she just like will not take no for an answer. She like I love that she like just pulls him around and like grabs him with the vines.
Pulls him into the ground. That's horrifying.
I love that too, and it also kind of got me thinking a little bit, right? Just to kind of sidetrack, to go into like lore and stuff for just a moment here, right? We saw Philip use this teleportation glyph in the previous episode, so I wonder if the plant magic has something to do with like the teleportation glyph as well, right? Because we know that the glyphs combine to form the magic. So yeah, I think plant magic.
We also see Darius do the same thing with.
Oh, that's right, with Abomination.
Yeah. So I think it's not like specific necessarily to one track.
Right. But like it uses that like plant energy, I want to say, to make it work.
It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily use Planergy. It uses Planergy in this case, but
Planergy.
but it was using the Ablenergy, the abomination energy when Darius did it.
Yeah. But I think Abomination, right, is like a combination of stuff, right? Like I think Abomination has plant magic in it somewhere.
How do you know?
It's a very complicated magic system, right?
How do you know?
Well, we know that there's only 5 elements, right, that make up the entire magic system, so we can kind of theorize a little bit, I feel. But anyway, Hunter gets forced, right? He gets chucked onto the field against his will, which is what he needs. He needs this. And then Skara reintroduces herself, right? Like, sorry, I've been playing Gregory for so long. I needed to catch up on the flyer derby strats, right? And she kind of shows that she herself is capable, right? Like she's
a pro gamer.
Yeah, she's proving Hunter wrong here, right? She's looking at this derby.analysis Pentagram account, right? How to crush your opponents with this simple trick, flame, flame, flame. And then it's got this really complicated like diagram on it, right? And he's like, oh wow, they're super complicated, and she's like, yeah, they are, right? And then Viney's like, okay, now that I've got Puddles down for a nap, I can focus now. And she does the healing spell on herself, right? And she has this fun line where she's like, now I'm only emotionally scarred. And she's just funny. She's fun. I like her. And then we see neat. Gus. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just said she's neat. I just think she's neat.
Yeah. And then we see Gus, right? And he's like totally picked up his flying skills, and now he's like surfing on it like a hoverboard, right? Hunter's like, I thought you couldn't fly, and he's like, well, I can't fly like everyone else, but my way's more fun, right? And this is like a continued like kind of theme with these characters, right? With this entire flyer derby team, right? Like everyone kind of like does things in their own way, right? Everyone's like strong in their own unique way. And I also want to point out that Dana teased us about this reveal of Gus flying on his palisman like a hoverboard when she did that art, right? She did that art of Gus and Willow and them flying on their palisman, and Willow was sitting on her staff and Gus was standing on his staff. So I just thought that was like a fun little wow. Dana hinted to this and we never even noticed. Shadow says, don't know if we already said this, but it was interesting to me that Hunter is disguised as a potion track, probably just because it's golden color. Yeah, I've seen a couple interesting theories about the fact that Hunter is disguising himself as a potion user. First of all, Ida was a
Ida,
potion
yeah, that's what I
track.
was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, Ida was a potion track person when she was in Hexside, so there's some kind of maybe a connection there. Also, interestingly, potions is one of those magic tracks that you don't need to use, normal conventional magic, right? Like Hunter does not have the ability to perform magic in the same way. So there's something there too, right? I don't know. But yeah, it could just be that he's dresses in yellow. And so Hunter actually does admit, right? He does say that was cool, and Gus is like, "Oh, what was that? What did you say?" And yeah, I do love that. Like Hunter is like opening up. He's like becoming friends with these kids, and Willow just like coming up out of the ground is really funny too. Like she's just like so rock hard. She's a badass.
That reminded me of King Boomy. Do you remember Boomy
Yes,
used to do that thing where he would like he just falls backwards into the ground and just like
yeah, absolutely
appears somewhere else. It's just like that.
It's so good. I love it.
She is the Toph. She's the Toph of this universe. She's such a stone cold badass.
Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely a lot squishier and like, she's more of a nugget than Toph, but she's got the badass.
Toph is like hard as nails in every sense of the word.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But they're equal levels of ruthlessly efficient at what they do.
Absolutely. So Willow now explains to Hunter, Scar is a strategical wizard, Viney's the best healer, and Gus is a speed demon or whatever. And then she's
demon.
No.
You can't stop me.
And then she says at one point or another, we've all been misjudged, right? Still think we're pathetic, right? I just love that moment, right? Because I think like this is an important moment for Hunter, right? Like Hunter has like always thought, right, that like chances have to be earned. You have to prove yourself always. And this is very similar, right, to Amity. This is like the parallel that we got with her and Amity in Eclipse Lake, right? Where now Hunter is realizing that like it's good to give people a chance. It's good to give people that opportunity to prove themselves, even if they don't seem like they can at first, right? And I think like this is an important lesson for Hunter to learn because he has to like internalize it and learn it for himself too, right?
Zoe saying Hunter was going to go for potions before being taken in by Belos. That's a nice idea, but we do know that Hunter has been under Belos's wing since he was born/created.
Yeah.
So I don't think being in the potions track has ever been on his mind.
Right. I do think the teleportation glyph will be used at the Day of Unity. That's a good theory, Thidges. I think I think the teleportation glyph will certainly come back in some way.
There are so many things I could say about that with respect to the influences this show draws from Berserk.
Yeah, we won't get to that. We won't talk about that today.
I'm not going to say that because I don't want to spoil Berserk for anybody.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point, Shia. Give them a chance is also a big theme in this week's Amphibia as well.
I think you'll find the big theme for this week's Amphibia is being a friggin' Giga Chad.
For the first episode, yes. So Lumity, right? They're lamenting outside like the freaking nerd losers that they are. We were so close, she says. But then of course they see this hooded figure, right? This mysterious figure that has the same earrings and the same hair as the author, who is like hopping away, and Amity says, I think that's her, that's the author. And of course this mysterious hooded figure is running after them, and Lumity decides to chase after her, right? And then we cut back to Hunter, and he is calling Darius on his little crow phone. I love this bit too, right? Where Darius
I didn't get my number. That's not important.
Darius is literally like in his lounge pants, in his like house slippers. I love this. I love getting this glimpse of just Darius like hanging out doing nothing with the stupid cucumbers on his eyes, and he's got this like plate of grapes and this like cup of tea and this gold like chaise that he's like lounging in. Like he's so flamboyant, he's so extra. He's so like into this like lavish like aesthetic lifestyle, and I love that about him. It's just really funny.
You have to respect that.
Yeah. And then of course he gets shocked when the crow shows up and he's like, "How did you get this number?"
That's not
Which is
important.
really funny. And Hunter's just like, "Doesn't matter. I found some incredible recruits on Hexside, right?" But yeah, I also did want to point out that, like, Hunter is calling Darius, right? Because, like, despite the fact that he is like getting this experience, right? He's like making these connections, he's like having this like fun for the first time. His like motivation and his primary goal is still getting that outside approval, right? Like just getting that, like getting that approval from an authority figure outside is like what helps Hunter like feel good about himself, right? And so this like desperation for this approval is something that he has to kind of learn to break out of in this episode.
Not Aaron Burr. You are definitely too late. We've been spending this whole time wondering where you were. It's literally all we've been talking about this whole time. Like we started, well, we can't really start without not Aaron Burr. Like where are they? We cried. There were some tears.
Right,
I'm not gonna
right.
lie. There were a few tears, but you're here now, so that's what matters.
So we're good, yeah. So we get the start of the match, right? And I love this tiny little C plot that we get between Viney and Gerbo, where Gerbo is like, he's just ready to have a good time. He's like, oh yeah, the professor asked me to play a game. This is just gonna be a fun time where we play a sport together. I'm ready to have some wholesome, team sportsmanship fun. And then Viney is just like Gerbo, and like I love this dramatic like zoom in with the shadow and her like cutting his throat with her thumb, being like traitor. Like it's just really funny. I love these.
What did he do wrong? Did we ever find that out?
All he did was just like play for the other team, basically.
Is that it?
That's literally it. And then Gerbo just being like, oh man, I thought I was gonna have a fun afternoon, but no, Viney's gonna freaking kill me.
She does. It's pretty brutal. I wasn't expecting there to be quite so much gore in this episode. She really kills him. It's
yeah, it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal.
Made me feel kind of sick. I don't know about you. Made me feel a bit ill.
I love that these like little minor characters just get these like moments of characterization too. It's just fun. It's just really fun. And then of course the match starts. All you have to do is fly high and snag the flags. The professor is just being an ass as usual. And then the match actually starts, right? And I really do like the visuals of this flyer derby, right? Obviously it draws some inspiration from Quidditch and some of the magical sports in other fantasy, whatever's. But
By
yeah.
that do you mean just Quidditch?
I'm sure it took, it's also like capture the flag, right? It's like Quidditch, capture the flag. And then but of course, like there's really like no rules about like, you can use whatever magic you want, right? We see like abomination magic being used. We see Hunter using his like teleportation flashy magic that we know that he's like good at, right? And I love that Hunter is not just like using his flying skills and like proving that he can like be good at something, right? Like it's also much more about learning to be a team and like learning to be a team player. And like I love that like that's like Hunter has like these moments with like all the characters, right? Like he's passing the flag to Gus and like he says like, Gus, that was amazing, right? Like I love that we're getting like this moment of like just teamwork and friendship and camaraderie and like Hunter just being a freaking like normal kid for once. And I just really like that. It's just really sweet. It's really sweet.
Yeah,
awesome.
And it's all because of Daddy Darius.
Daddy Darius, we love you.
He even gives him a phone at the end. He just wants this poor kid to have a life.
Right, exactly.
We're dealing with a man who has literally no life. How do you kill that which has no life?
Right. Willow is like going all over the place, right? She's like grabbing the flags, and then this freaking professor like cheating. Like what kind of dork ass loser are you when you're a full ass grown adult and you're cheating against a match against some like little kids just for the hell of it? Like, come on, man, do better. But of course, we get this kind of like dramatic moment too, right? Where Willow is like passing off the flags to Hunter, and then she catches herself as she's falling, which is cool. And Gus does this push, right? Gus pushes Hunter to keep him from getting tackled by the other student, and he uses that speed boost, right, to go and get the flags on the goal, which is beautiful, great moment. And then he like lands, and there's this really cute moment, right, where they dump the Gatorade right on him, like they do in sports. And then there's just very cute, wholesome moment of them like just cheering and celebrating their victory. And I really do love this team. I really do love like this this
I
kind
would
of
just love to see more of them. I'd be very happy to see another episode about this sport. It was surprisingly
yeah.
fun to watch.
Yeah, it was super fun to watch, and it was like a fun like little action sequence with the actual sport, and it's just fun seeing these characters like interact with each other, like these little minor characters that we didn't get that much of, like get to kind of get fleshed out a little bit in this episode. And we get more Gus and Willow, which is always excellent. And yeah, this whole team like dynamic of like them being like the kids that were overlooked but now are like getting to prove themselves, like I just love that as a concept, right? And then of course the professor is like, what's the team name? And they hadn't thought of it. And I love that it's Hunter that comes up with the team name, right? Like it really just goes to show how much of like he is a part of this team now, right? Like, because we're green and there's more to us than you think, right? Which is really, really sweet. And they of course all love it, and they go, and trails, right? It's just really awesome. I love it.
This has just been like a really quality non-plot heavy episode.
Yeah, and I love it.
And I really was missing those in the first half of season 2.
Yeah.
It's nice to see episodes like this.
Yeah, me too. And then we get this like cute selfie moment, right, where they're like, let's take a team picture, and then this like really adorable like selfie that they all take. I've seen so much really cute fan art of like people redrawing this selfie. Like shout out to the fan artists out there who are so talented. Like I really love this moment. Like it's just so wholesome.
Oh man, I should do that, shouldn't I? Why didn't I
think
of that?
That would be really
I'm
cute.
too late. I'm too late to the party.
No,
I guess the episode came out literally yesterday, so I'm not that late.
Yeah, you're not that late. You're good. Yeah, I love seeing Viney again, love seeing Scar again. I just love seeing this whole group, right? They were all super, super adorable. And I was a little worried actually at first when this photo got taken, because I was like, oh no, are we gonna like do a whole like plot of like Willow and Gus are friends with Hunter, and then like Luz is gonna find out later that it was Hunter, and it's gonna be like a big thing. I'm really glad that they didn't do that. Actually, I was like actually really happy to see that they are just kind of addressing it all in this episode. Like there's no long-term like deception or anything like that. Like I don't know, I just feel like those kind of tropes are very tired, and this show is really good at like just not falling into those cliches.
It's really good at retiring those tropes.
Definitely.
Putting them to bed. They could do with a nap. But it's I don't think Luz harbors any ill will towards Hunter.
Amity does.
Amity definitely does. Amity could beat his whole ass.
Yeah.
But I don't think Luz harbors any ill will towards him.
Right. But we do know that Hunter has like threatened Luz and like her safety, right?
But to be fair, who hasn't, in this economy?
True. Pretty much everyone has at one point or another.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I like this one more line that we get from Viney too, right? Just to kind of round out this this rivalry that's going on between her and Gerbo. Always nice making a new friend. I had an opening for one, she says, glaring at Gerbo. And it's like his clutching at the heart. It's just funny. It's just fun. I love these characters.
Poor Gerbo.
Poor Gerbo. And then of course they have a moment where they're like, sorry we misjudged you. We're glad to have you on the team. And Hunter, this poor dumb idiot baby just does not know how to talk to people. And then he of course reveals that he is of course recruiting for the Emperor's Coven, and he finally confesses, right? His name's not Caleb, it's Hunter, and I'm the Emperor's right hand man, the Golden Guard. This voice acting was really funny too. Again, shout out to Zeno, like his whole like, yeah, you guys can be part of the Golden Guard with like this hand animation. It was just really funny. And like Willow and the team being like, oh gosh, you can't be serious. You're not the one that Luz told us about, right? And then, so I'm really glad that like there wasn't any of this kind of like, oh, you lied to us about who you are, deception, blah, 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 long-term kind of thing, right? Like we get this cleared out. This whole misunderstanding is cleared out in this episode, which I really liked. And then he of course dons on his Golden Guard uniform again, right? And he's like, this would be cooler with the cloak that I don't have. Sorry.
It looks extra dorky without the cloak.
It does look very dorky.
Really pulls it together.
Yeah. Oh, that's true too. Not Aaron Burr. I forgot to point that out. That every one of the crew members, Willow and Luce and all of them have the copy of the Grom photo. That's right. That was another photo that Willow had at the beginning of the episode. Amity's gonna kill him. First he messes with Luz, and now he's trying to get close to Willow. Yeah. I feel like if anyone is going to kill Hunter, it's probably Amity. But the scouts show up, right? And at first, like, Hunter is like a little like, whoa, I didn't order you guys to come here. But of course, Darius is the one that sent over these scouts, right, to come get the recruits. And we know that Darius is really just doing this to get like Hunter off his back, to like kind of like just get this thing over with, right? Like, Darius has very much been established as a character who just does sort of things out of the sake of convenience, like, right, like he goes by the book just for the ease of it, just because that's how it is. He doesn't like question it because that's just too much work for him, right? Like, he's just gonna go with whatever is easiest and most convenient for him. And like, this was just whatever. He's gonna send the scouts to go get the students. And we also know, right, like, he really had no intent of taking the students for real, right? He was really just doing this to like get Hunter off his back.
To just get this poor kid to go outside, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how Hunter does all this under the guise of kindness. Like, he genuinely believes this is friendly behavior because that's how his life has been. Yeah, absolutely, Toon. And we get that right in this scene where Hunter has taken these guys to the prison, the jail cell or whatever, right? Because we see that Skara hit Steve on the head. And he's like confused, right? He's like unsure why these kids are like so against it. And actually, before we get to that moment, we just got to give a shout out to Steve, right? Ice pack for Steve.
Ice pack for Steve. Steve is great. I love the bit at the end of this whole segment where he's like, Steve is regretting his life choices.
Yeah. I love that Steve like talks in the third person. Like, that's so silly. I love that Steve, doesn't hold a grudge against the kids for bashing his head in, right? Like, he's just a guy. He's just a dude.
He gets it. He understands. I want Steve to have a really big heroic moment. I really do.
I do too. That would be amazing.
I want Steve to be the Moomin Rider of the Owl House. I want him to square up against Bellows and like get his ass beat.
Yeah.
Very thoroughly, but the fact he tried is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, to Toon's comment here, and to Morgan's comment as well. Hunter is confused, right? He's confused as to why these kids like don't want to join the Emperor's Coven. You get to keep all your magic for your room and board. You just never get to see your flyer. And then he says, we get one day off to play flyer derby. And then he says, well, this year has already passed, but it's only 52 weeks away, right? Really just goes to show how brainwashed he is to think that one day off a year constitutes a good deal, right?
Someone needs to tell that to all the poor manga artists out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But of course,
I'm not even saying that as a joke. I mean that completely sincerely.
But of course, the kids are like, we don't care. None of us want this. And then, Hunter, of course, just doesn't get it, right? Like, he genuinely thinks this is the right call. This is the way to go. Like, trust me, I'm your friend. This is what friends do, right? Gus saying like friends don't stab each other in the back, and then Hunter being like, sure they do. The Coven heads do it all the time back at the castle, right? So this is exactly like what you said, Toon. Hunter just genuinely thinking that this is the right move here because this is just like all that he's known, right? Which of course this episode is crucial in kind of challenging that, right? And Willow is crucial in challenging that as well, right? So we get this interaction between Hunter and Willow, right? And Willow, of course, she tends to be that character who directs anger inwards, right? She directs that anger towards herself, right? And even though it's Hunter who has like fooled them and is doing this, right? She puts the blame on herself, which is really hard to watch, right? It's hard to see that she internalizes this as her fault, right? I thought I could be good at this. We're here because I made a bad call, right? And she calls herself, I'm just half a witch Willow. She touches her hair, which I think is particularly noteworthy as well, right? Because we got that moment between Amity and Willow earlier in the episode where Amity was the one, right, who gave Willow her new hair. And this kind of like healing between Amity and Willow is what has like started to give Willow that confidence, right? And so like now seeing this like failure that supposedly she has made, and like her internalizing that it's her own fault, right? She's kind of questioning all of this stuff that has come before, right? Like her friendship with her friendship with Amity, her like previous accomplishments, right? Like all of this stuff is kind of coming into question for her here as she's like, repeating that line that has gotten like told to her from Amity, right? And her bullies. I'm just half a witch, Willow, right? And then we see that moment, of course, of Hunter's reaction to that, right? And I think in the same way, right? The same way that Willow saw herself in Hunter when Hunter himself, which I think Hunter is now seeing himself in Willow as well, as Willow's calling herself half a witch, right? And this is like a really key moment for Hunter's development of his own empathy, right, for other people.
Indeed.
Yeah, just really, really big moment for Hunter. And I think like a lot of people too were really they really liked the way that this parallel was brought up, right? I think like a lot of people like didn't necessarily see this parallel coming, but once they kind of like brought it up in this context, like people were like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense,"
Yeah,
right?
it
Like
makes
this
perfect
parallel.
sense, yeah.
Let's see, what are folks saying in the chat? I imagine Steve is higher ranked Coven member than this appearance suggests. Maybe, yeah. I think Willow saying she's half a witch is slightly heavy-handed, especially she's still led the team to victory. But you also need to give Hunter that big push. Yeah, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's heavy-handed, but it's not any more or less heavy-handed than is
Yeah.
to be expected of a children's cartoon.
Yeah, I think it works. I think it works
It's
really nicely.
it's not. We're not watching Breaking Bad.
Right. Hunter saying that the Coven heads stab people in the back makes me think even more that the Coven heads will betray Belos. Ooh, that's a good theory. That's a good theory.
I think at the very least, even if they're not going to betray him, I think they certainly won't be organized enough for him to do what he wants to do as smoothly as he wants to do it.
Right, for sure. Yeah, Belos sucks at being a boss if they're all constantly stabbing each other in the back. Yeah, we know that Belos has some questionable motives, questionable practices, I should say. Darius, right, then kind of scoops the kids out with his like abomination goo and gets them onto the airship. And then meanwhile, the guard, has all their palismen locked in this cage and puts them up on the ship as well, right? And again, we get this moment of Hunter, right, desperately trying to get this like approval, right, this outside approval from this like authority figure that he like looks up to, right? And he's he's got this like this dorky little like smile on his face, and he's just like so like eager to like prove himself and to get that approval from Darius, right? He's like, Darius, I did it, I found recruits, right? Like he's so like proud of himself in this like moment because he thinks that he's gonna get that approval from Darius, right? And instead Darius is like pretty apathetic. He's just like, whatever, I don't
It's
really
my
care.
day off, dude. I was just trying to get you out of the house for a few hours.
Yeah, exactly. And he just like apathetically just like gives Hunter back the cloak because he actually doesn't really care, right? He just sort of said all this stuff just to get Hunter off his back, and Hunter at first thinking that this is the approval, right? This is the approval that he's gotten, right? He's like, I can wear this proudly now, can't I? But Darius, he doesn't actually believe that, right? He just said this stuff just to get Hunter off his back, and so he just sort of he says, can you, right? Like, can you actually like proudly wear that? And I don't think that Darius was ever trying to like get Hunter to question it or anything like that, right? I just think that Darius really
he just doesn't
care. He just doesn't have an answer, right? But I think like this is important for Hunter to realize that like this outside approval that he was like so desperate for, it doesn't actually come from outside, right? It comes from inside. It comes from him realizing that he has made the choices and he has made the decisions that he can be proud of, right? And now he's realizing that like this outside approval doesn't actually matter, right?
Mm.
And it gets him to start questioning, right? Like he's like, oh, I didn't get this approval did I make the right choice, right? Do I get my own approval, right? Is kind of what he's questioning here, right? And then I love that Steve is kind of this catalyst for Hunter, right? He's like, oh, I feel bad for those kids, and we get the repeat of the earlier gag, right, of Hunter being like, oh, they just have to go through the normal training, right? Steve repeating the duels, the mazes with the traps, getting left alone on the mountain, and Hunter again being like, haha, classic, right? Just really funny. But also just goes to kind of show, right, like how like normalized this kind of treatment is for Hunter, right? And then Steve, of course, reminds Hunter, of course, Bellows likes to collect everyone's talismans, right? Which is, and then Hunter gets a flashback to, of course, Bellows snorting that talisman juice.
Yeah, we really need to give him a bit of an intervention about that.
Right.
He's doing a little too much snorting for his own good.
Absolutely.
We're finding lines of talisman dust all over the place.
But yeah, and then Steve has this line here, right? Like, Steve is beginning to regret his choices. I love just like that third person line is really funny, right? And then as Hunter looks up at the airship, he's like, I think Hunter is too, right? Which is a little funny because he's saying it in third person, but also like an important moment, right? Where he's like actually starting to question like his choices and his.
I kind of wonder, this is definitely me reading way too much into this, but I kind of wonder if that, like him saying that line in third person is like a little bit of disidentification with who Hunter is.
Right.
Because they've introduced this pseudonym of Caleb, and I feel like somewhere along the line, he's just going to become Caleb, and he's going to abandon Hunter. And like the name Hunter, like semantically comes with so many implications.
Absolutely.
And Caleb is just like a nice, normal, regular name.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but that's how I.
No, yeah, I mean that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. Yeah, I really like what Shadow Link says here. External validation is a cup with a hole at the bottom. That is a beautiful way to put it because it's so true, right? It really is true. Like external validation is only ever gonna feel good for a little bit, and then it's very fleeting, right? Like. And you're always gonna want more. You're like with external validation, like it's never enough, right? Like you always need more. You always need to get that again, right? It's never enough just to feel good about it once, right? And I totally agree with you that yeah, I really like the way you said that. Palisman were mentioned twice in this episode. That feels like some scary foreshadowing. Yeah, obviously I think Palisman is gonna play a really big part in the story. Cut back to Lumity, right? They're going off on their shenanigans, right? They're trying to catch this this little creature, hooded creature with their magic and everything. Amity using the abomination magic, Luz using plant magic, and then on the way they're like trying to come up with these theories, continue with these theories with each other, right? Like, oh, maybe it's Kikimora, and the only way to express herself is through fiction. And then Amity saying maybe it's another shape-shifting basilisk, right? So reminding us yet again that the basilisks are a thing. We don't want to forget that. And then, of course, the hooded figure is trying to jump up onto this rock, but of course falls over, and the cloak falls down, and it is revealed. And I love the line that we get to, right? Ah, wats. It's just pretty funny. Tanella Noza, Amity says, and Luz is like, she's had a name this whole time.
That line really got a chuckle out of me.
That was really funny. That was really, really funny. Because yeah, we've just been calling this character Tiny Nose this whole time, and apparently her name is Tanella Noza, which is quite funny.
Which is just like, I mean, Tanella Noza can be contracted to Tiny Nose.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what they were going for with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so it gets revealed that this is Tiny Nose. In fact, the entire time, Tiny Nose, of course, is voiced by Dana Terrace. So she's kind of like this, a little bit of like a. The way that I would kind of compare it is like, in Undertale, there's like the annoying dog that's kind of like a stand-in for Toby Fox. Exactly. Beautiful. Well done.
Welcome.
But
She
yeah, I
loved
feel
them.
like, Tiny Nose is the equivalent in the Owl House universe to the annoying dog is to the Undertale universe. She's just kind of like this like author, stand-in figure.
The annoying dog has the benefit of being a puppo,
That's true.
which
That's true.
automatically means every time it showed up, I was very happy to see it. It was not annoying at all. It was I was just like, oh, my friend.
My friend. Of course, Tiny Nose comes in, right, and she says like the jig is up, boss, and it's revealed, right. This reveal comes up that it is in fact Tibbles, this freaking grifter, scam artist character that we've seen multiple times, come up in the show, right? Like he was trying to grift Ida at one point, and then I think he was trying to grift Gwendolyn, right, in the season 2
No,
episode. Oh no, that was a different
no,
character.
that was the bunch of weird little dork
That's right. That was
ass
different. That was
losers,
different.
the
Uh,
little pedos. I don't know who they were.
that's right. That's
Not
right.
goblins.
But we have seen this character a couple different times doing different scams and different things like that, right? And so this reveal happens, right? This very anticlimactic reveal, right? And then Bartholomew is here for some reason, right? He's just like randomly a part of this whole grift as well, right? And he's apparently been the one editing the photos on the back of the cover art, right? Some of my finest work, he says. It's kind of random that Bartholomew is the one helping out here. And then Tibbles, right, of course, is like, calm down. Human garbage is constantly leaking into our water. And like about a year ago, I found this box set of books, and he's been trying to, make a few bucks essentially, right, with this grift of editing these books from the human realm and trying to sell them to other witches on the Boiling Isles. And of course, like it is played for laughs, right? It's funny that no one on the Boiling Isles is not buying the book other than Amity, right? According to the owner of the book, Nick, he's only ever had one customer purchase from this series, and Amity with her like embarrassed little blush, right, is just like so dorky. These two nerds were meant to be the only two nerds who read this dorky ass
They
book
are
series.
literally the only two. They both just have really bad taste.
They do, and I love it. I love it so much. They're so gay. And Amity just being like, I didn't know, I swear, right? Being all embarrassed. They're just so cute. I love them so much.
I saw like I've seen a couple of people complain about Amity's character post Lumity becoming canon.
What?
That she like only exists in service to Lumity. I don't think that's true. I
I
think
don't think that's true,
this
yeah.
episode, like, she loves this book series as much as Luce does. This might be a shared interest, but this still very much felt like something that she personally was interested in. It was a moment she got to share with Luce for sure, but it still felt like, an Amity thing just as much as a Luce thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also like Amity has such like an interesting character arc that she's going through like outside of Luce as well, like with her parents, with her siblings, right? Like Amity does have like this really interesting and compelling arc that she's going on, and Luce is a part of it, right? Like Luce and Lumity is a part of Amity's arc in a very similar way that Amity is a part of Luce's arc, right? And I feel like that's what's so awesome and beautiful about like their relationship is like they both have these individual character arcs that they're going on, and their relationship serves as like one of the tools that is aiding them along their character arc, right? Like it's not the only thing, and it's not the only thing that defines their characters anymore. But it's a crucial part of both of their individual character arcs, which I really love, and I really love that about their relationship and like the way that the show handles their relationship. So I completely disagree with anyone who thinks that Amity has just been reduced to Lumity after they got together, because I've been seeing a lot of especially in Eclipse Lake with Amity and Hunter. I feel like there was a lot there.
Yeah, she kicked ass.
She did kick ass. It's almost as if she has a close relationship with the protagonist. Yeah, but like, yeah, she's very much her own character as well, which I love, which I really, really love. Which is also right, just not to harp on this again and not to like detract again, but that is one of the reasons why I think like it is frustrating with Rain, because like Rain and Ida Rain feels very much defined by their relationship to Ida, which is like in contrast to like Amity, who's like her own fully developed, like fully fleshed out 3-dimensional character, right? It's a shame that like it's not on the same level. So I hope that we get more of Rain and that we can get to that same level like sometime soon. But it's just unfortunate, like we can kind of see like the contrast between like these two relationships. But anyway, I digress. Amity continues to kick ass, and she, uses this abomination fist to punch Tibbles into the air, while Luce, in the meantime, is disappointed at this reveal, right? So, I do love that these two just get to like interact as a couple during this subplot, which I like. I enjoy.
Yeah.
Of course, we cut back to Hunter, right, desperately trying to chase down Darius in the airship. We get our second tiny little crumb of Rain as we see Darius scrolling through Penstagram, right? Rain has posted this photo being like, "Choose your fighter," smiley face, and the owl lady has commented, "Nerd, return
my goals."
Also, people are so freaking like they have such like an encyclopedic knowledge of the show. Like they've pointed out the fact that Ida's username in an earlier episode was different, and so people are like, Rain must have like blocked Ida's account, and Ida had to make like another account just to comment on Rain's pictures. And I'm just like, yeah, that's funny, and I buy that. And then of course we also get Chili Lily, right? Chili.Lily, who's got new inks.
Oh my god, I lost it over this. The idea that she buys and reviews ink is so her.
I love the freaking
hashtags as well.
The hashtags really what got me on this one. Hashtag ink, hashtag bad girl, hashtag Penstagood, hashtag cool. I love her. I love Lilith so much. She's such a nerd, and I adore her.
She's a proud Dorcas.
Yes, absolutely. And then of course we also get this Alador picture, right, where with Alador with his Abomaton. Meet the 2.5. So I think this is an interesting little nugget too, right? Because we see that Alador is continuing to develop these Abomatons, and so it stands to good reason that these things are going to be pretty beefy and like quite the adversary, when we kind of see different versions of them throughout the show.
Can't wait to see Daddy Darius, just pick them apart.
Let's go, Daddy Darius. And also, speaking of Daddy Darius, I love the fact that Darius is like hate following Alador. and then this hashtag too, right? Who's the hack now, right? So this rivalry between Darius and Alador is still very much present in this episode, and I like this little comment from Emira too, right? Dad, this is embarrassing, with a little vomiting emoji. It's just a cute little nugget that we get. But yeah, I am looking forward to Daddy Darius kicking the ass of Alador. I love Darius's like style, like his boots, like he's so extra. I love him.
He's great. We all stand Daddy Darius.
We stand Daddy Darius. And then he's got like the palisman looking all scared inside in the cage. And this like interaction between Darius and the kids too is just really funny. It's really fun, right? Like
he doesn't even look at them. He's just like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, like Skara like trying to reach for them, and him just going like whoop, and like just going bap on Willow's head, right? Like with the goopy arm. Like he's just so like it's obvious that he's at like 5% power right now, right? Like he's just like not giving it his full effort. He's like bap. See right where you are, you silly kids. And then of course like Hunter though, Hunter is flashes in, right, and serves as a nice little distraction, and I really liked this both got a good laugh out of me, and I thought like it was such a brilliant use of like the kids and like their strategical minds, right, and like their teamwork again, right, like with Gus pulling the illusion trick. And I love like that expression that Gus has too, as he's like falling off the edge of the ship with like his tongue sticking out, and him like saluting as he's like going off the side of the ship, right? Like that was just really funny, and this whole like bit with them like falling and then like poofing into the clouds, that was just really funny, right? And then Darius being like, oh, an illusion, and then they managed to land the ship, right? But I really like that. I thought that was just really fun. Just again goes to show like how much of a team the Emerald Entrails are, and how they work together in such like a cool, fun way. And yeah, I just really like them a lot.
They have stolen all our hearts.
They have. Yeah, Daddy Darius, We stand Daddy Darius. He's here, with the flames in the background. You really think you could get away with endangering a coven head? And, here he's really just trying to, like, be scary, be intimidating, I feel, right? Like, do you have any idea
He's
what
not actually gonna hurt them.
Yeah. I feel like if he actually wanted to take out these kids, he absolutely
would have done it ages ago.
He would have done it. He absolutely could have done it in like an instant. Like it's very clear that he's just trying to like be scary and like, and he like takes down Willow's magic with like Willow's a badass. Don't get me wrong. Willow is awesome and she's like incredibly skilled and incredibly talented at the plant magic. But the fact that Darius like doesn't even like sweat at like chopping down Willow's plant magic, like it just really goes to show the power disparity, right, between Willow and Darius. Darius is obviously incredibly powerful. But then of course we get this awesome moment, right, where Hunter comes in the way, right? He stands and he protects the team. He's standing up for them and he says, "No, I was mistaken," right? He's trying to like just come up with some excuse for letting the team go, and says they're agitators, right? They're not fit for the Emperor's Coven. Just let them go, he says. And then he actually also says, like, I'm unfit to wear the sigil of the Golden Guard, which I think is also important, right? Because this is something that he was so desperate for at the beginning of the episode. And now he's kind of like come to realize like this feeling of being worthy of something is not going to come from outside, right? It's going to come from inside. And I think like this is something that like is an important step for Hunter's character.
Yeah, it hasn't provided him with the fulfillment that he was hoping it would.
Exactly. And then he urges the team to go, right? And then we see like this moment from Willow where she's like kind of hesitant at first. We see like tears in her eyes, right? She's obviously very hurt at this betrayal that she thought that she could trust Caleb, and she feels betrayed, right? But then I think like this line that Hunter says, right? He says, "Please, Captain," which really emphasizes and really reminds Willow that there is a respect, right? Like Hunter is doing this out of respect, out of kindness, out of like true friendship, right? Like he really does admire Willow. Like that admiration is real, right? And like him calling her captain really like sells that. And Willow notices that as well, right? Willow sees that respect and that friendship, right? That olive branch almost, right? And she says, let's move out, team. We need to find a replacement. And even she has like this really sweet line, right, where she acknowledges her friendship with Hunter. She says, after all, it'll be 52 weeks before Caleb's next day off, right?
Next day off, yeah. I liked that.
And we do get a little blush from Hunter. I know a lot of people were pointing that out, that he gets a little blush. I like that. I like what a goober he is. And yeah, I am really excited to see their friendship continue on. I know a lot of people are on the, Hunt Low ship. I honestly, I'd be happy either way if they were to go in like a romantic way or platonic way. I just want Hunter to like continue to be friends with this entire group, and of course develop his friendship and that parallel that he has already, kind of established with Willow. But yeah, at this point in the story, I know some people were shipping it before this episode, and now I think a lot of people have.
Now they've gone crazy.
Now a lot more people have jumped onto the ship, which I think is to be expected with how much interaction we got in this episode. But yeah, I think for me personally, I think I would be happy either way, whether it was platonic or romantic.
I only ship Darius with me. That's the only ship I support.
Yes, I can get behind that. Oh man, I love Daddy Darius. I love him in this episode so much. Yeah, Hunt Low Nation was fed well the other day. They also really did love the blush. Yeah, and then we get this like I love this like moment with Hunter too, right? Where he's like bracing for the impact, and his little palisman is like covering his eyes too. It's like really cute. Also apparently this palisman's name is Flapjack. I don't remember where that got confirmed or where that got established, but apparently his name is Flapjack.
How would you know what flapjacks are? They have flapjacks in the Boiling Isles?
I don't know, apparently. And then Darius, because we saw Darius, refer to Hunter as like little prince, all you do is obey rules. He kind of like was looking down at Hunter, right? Like he kind of like just didn't really understand Hunter and just kind of saw him as this like obedient little loser. But like this moment of Hunter standing up to Darius, right? It really kind of shows this other side of Hunter to Darius that Darius now respects and admires, right? Which I really like. I really like that there's this side of Darius that like actually genuinely just likes Hunter as like a kid, right? I had you all wrong, he says with like this cute little bap on his head. You're what, 16, right? And like, yeah, he's like, you need to make some friends, you need to touch some grass. Here's a phone.
I love that. We were all wrong about Daddy Darius.
We were, yeah, I love him.
Like, initially it was like, oh, is this going to be a villain we love to hate? But now it's just like, no, this is just a man that we just like. We just really like this dude. He's chill.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got his own motivations, and of course, like he does have some allegiance to Bellows, right? But I think, I think this is like an important line too, right? He says we have more than enough recruits, in my opinion, right? So this is like, again, he is just doing what's convenient for him. He's just doing what he thinks is like on his own agenda, right? So whether or not like the Emperor's Coven really needed more recruits or not, right? Like in Darius's mind, it didn't. So he was just going to do whatever he wants to do, right? And then, we get this this really important line from Hunter and Darius where Hunter asks, "Are you going to tell Bellows about this, right?" And then Darius says, "Are you going to tell him about your secret palisman?" So it's clear that Darius is willing to disobey Bellows, or willing to kind of go against Bellows's wishes, for the sake of at least this kid, right? Like,
yeah.
And I really do like that. I really like that that's been established, right? That Darius is, self-interested, self-motivated, not necessarily like completely loyal to Bellows, but he does now have this like relationship with this kid. And, I'm curious to see like this relationship develop. Obviously we know that Hunter has looked up to Darius in the past, and I'm curious to know like if this is going to continue to play a role in their relationship. But yeah, I really do like this like uncle parental daddy Darius relationship that we've gotten with Darius and Hunter. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's wonderful. He ended up being just a really nice surprise that I think we all welcomed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also goes to show exactly, Shadow, how loose Bellows' grip on these characters are as well. And yeah, definitely thought he was a cool villain. Now he's a cool villain and a dad.
That's what I was saying, right? Like we always liked him, but we didn't like him in the same way that we like him now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this little moment that we get to, right, between them where he uses the abomination magic to fix the patch, and he's like, but you can still use a sewing lesson, right? Like just one more little like, yeah, I'm still gonna give you a little bit of a hard time.
But he fixed it for him.
He did.
I think it's lovely.
Yeah. And now he does kind of have this like, external approval, which I think is also important. Yeah, really sweet. I love the relationship. I'm really excited to see their kind of parental relationship continue to flourish. Cut back to Lumity. These dork-ass losers are walking back empty-handed, right? Azura's author turned out to be a human, but I'm human too, right? Luz says, sometimes it's nice to be reminded that you don't have to be like a all-powerful ancient witch, right? Which has been kind of a running theme from, the first episode of the show, right? Like you don't have to be this great, big, powerful, prophesized person just to, make a difference, right? Do something special, make something special. And I think like that's really important for Luz to continue to like learn that lesson.
Agreed.
And then of course Amity's like, I had fun coming up with these theories. They were like her own little stories. And then they decide to make
I want to kind of outline that a little, because I saw a comment earlier kind of saying that it felt like an FU to the fans. I think that line confirms that it isn't. I think it was a bit of a love letter. It was poking fun of the absurdity of some of them, but it's like it doesn't mock that people engage with the text in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely saw it as like the show poking fun at like us fans who are like, coming up with our wild and funny theories. But I definitely didn't see it as like in a mean-spirited way, right? Like the fact that it ends on this like kind of like, oh, we had fun doing that, right? Like it's definitely like acknowledging that it's a thing, but it's not being mean about it. It's just kind of like, haha, like this is fun and cute.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. And then of course they decide to make this into a writing club, which I think is cute, right? Like I do love that like Amity and Luz have this like shared passion for like writing and art and storytelling, which is very, very cute. And then, of course, they notice, right? They see the Emerald Entrails team walking up. And Luz is like, I want to know what they've been up to all night, right? And then we get this very, very adorable line between Viney and Willow, where Viney's like, wow, did he just make an account? And Willow's like, wow, he's a slow typer, right?
Slower than my dad.
Slower than my dad. Yeah, exactly.
Gus, yeah.
But I really like this because it does also kind of establish that like this relationship is going to get developed a little bit off screen as well, right? Like I think we can safely assume that Hunter and Willow are probably going to be messaging each other on DMs on Penstagram, at this point on, and their friendship is going to kind of continue to develop off screen and like while the other plots and stuff are going on. So I think like when we do revisit this again in the future, I think it's safe to assume that Willow and Hunter, and at very least Willow and Hunter, but Hunter and like the rest of the Emerald Entrails, right? They will hopefully become better friends and get to know each other a little more.
And on a tangential note, I would like to see more of Gus's dad.
Me too.
We've seen so little of that man. I want to see him typing slowly.
I want to see Gus's dad, and I want to see Willow's dads. I want to see all of them.
They're all great.
They're all very, very
but
great.
It's unlikely we will. I don't think we will. But it would be. I'd welcome it if we.
I'd welcome it too. Yeah, that would be amazing. And then of course Willow is bragging, right? We just had our first win as the Emerald Entrails, and I do like this plot point was at least addressed at the end of the episode, right? We don't get this ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and we don't get a follow up to this. But at least Willow did not hide the fact, right? Like I like that this was just all out in the open. I like that Willow didn't feel the need to like hide the fact that she was becoming friends with Hunter, right? She just shows them the picture, and we get this look of shock from Luz and Amity to close out the episode, which is just quite fun. So yeah, I guess this is the end of this episode. We'll figure out how this plot line gets followed up on later. How Luz and Amity exactly are going to react to Hunter being friends with like Willow and Gus now. Yeah, this was a fun episode for sure. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm glad that we got some, just fun, wholesome, episodic, chill vibes. That this wasn't super plot driven. Lots of character moments in this one. Love getting Hunter and Willow. Hunter and Willow, Willow was so overdue for her episode, and I'm so glad that we finally got it. And I love that we got this parallel, right? Also between Willow and Hunter. Hunter, again, is just such an interesting character who always is paralleling and reflecting these characters that he's interacting with throughout these episodes, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to continue to build on. And but especially excited for Daddy Darius, though.
Aren't we all?
Yes, absolutely. Cool. Well, was there anything more that you had to say about this episode?
No, not really. I feel like we've covered everything. It was a very entertaining episode. Not a lore dump or a lump.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to have to blast through these two Amphibia episodes so quickly because I have to go in an hour.
Yeah, definitely. I have a feeling we'll be a little quicker in general. Let's take a quick, like maybe 2 to 3 minute break just because I need to grab some water. But we'll take a quick 2 to 3 minute break, and then we'll go into Amphibia.
Yeah.
Alrighty. See you guys in a sec. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get back into it. Let's keep this break a little bit shorter this time around. Thank you all so much for continuing to hang out with us as we transfer over to Amphibia. I didn't even prepare this.
You did it.
I did it. I asked Tom the other night as I was preparing for today's stream. I was like, what the heck should I make? I don't know what I should make the background for today's stream. And Tom was like, Tony ripping his sleeves off like a Giga Chad. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll do it.
And to be clear, I did say, like, if you do it, you're going to have to screen cap my message saying ripping his sleeves off like an absolute Giga Chad.
Yep.
Which you did do. I wasn't sure you were going to do that.
Nope, y'all can see here. This is the proof that Tom literally told me exactly what to make today's background stream. So yes, I did include that little screenshot as well, just to show everyone how ridiculous you are. Also, thank you, Shia, for dropping all those links during the break. Really appreciate it. Yes, please go follow us on social, and of course check out Tom's webcomic too. It's super duper adorable. I'm a big fan.
It's been doing surprisingly really well. Like only like right before we started the stream, it was at like 720 something, and already it's at 893. And
Woo!
this is like the past
Let's go, blow it up.
I would really love if this became a thing that people really enjoyed and found cathartic and nice.
It's super cute. It's super gay, wholesome vibes. You gotta love it.
That's exactly what we need in this life.
It really is, though. It actually is. Like, unironically, it's actually genuinely what we need. So yeah, these episodes were super fun. These were a little bit more episodic kind of episodes, right? Focusing more, again, on Sasha and kind of her character arc, and her continued kind of journey as she's, like, growing into this leadership role. And also like her relationship, right? Like we're kind of learning more about her relationship with the frogs, with the characters of Wortwood. Also, I did want to point out, I think this has been in a previous episode, but I just haven't pointed it out and missed it, that their like flag sigil thing is like a cross between Sasha's heron sword and Anne's tennis racket, which I just think is fun. But we start off the episode, right, as a kind of a briefing towards their next mission. They are sitting with Mrs. Croker, with Wally, with Loggle, and Maddie. And I love that Maddie is like picking her teeth with like a dagger. Like these guys have really like fully embraced like their like badass vagabond, like, you know.
Maddie had never not embraced that. That's just Maddie. I don't think Maddie had to do much changing over the course of
for sure.
the last few months. Loggle, I will never get over that bod.
Yeah, Loggle is just so freaking funny. I love what they did with him. It's really, really hilarious. And then of course we see this other character, right? This little bean-shaped little bean-shaped nugget with the
just a little guy.
He's just a little guy. But yeah, he's obviously just a little guy, little nugget. Sasha is like, all right, guys, the Marauders have intercepted our latest shipment of weapons, right? So we find out that there's like this kind of Marauder kind of faction of people who are not necessarily fighting with the Resistance, but they're not necessarily like part of Andrius's army either. But they're just kind of like doing chaotic stuff, right?
It's Lord Humongous. They literally give the guy Lord Humongous's helmet before you get the reveal.
I was going to ask you if it was a reference to anything. And also, this episode is called Sasha's Angels, which is like a reference to Charlie's Angels. So I was going to ask you, like, were there any like references in this episode kind of related to that?
I don't know nearly enough about Charlie's Angels, but I have watched all of the Mad Max films multiple times. And that helmet, that's the Marauders, that's all very Mad Max.
Right.
Helmet is just Lord Humongous's helmet. That's just Lord Humongous.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they don't work for Andrius's rebellion, but they do hijack caravans and all that stuff, right? So they come up with this mission to smack them down, right? There are too many of them to take on. And so, yeah, they come up with this plan to sneak into their camp and steal this stuff back, right? Thieving from the thieves. I love dramatic irony, Wally said. And I think that you had something to say about that, right?
I have to address that. That is not the correct use. He could just say, I love irony, and then he would be right. But calling it dramatic irony is wrong. That's not what dramatic irony is. That's incorrect.
Do you want to
If you-
explain what dramatic irony actually is?
Very quickly, dramatic irony is when the characters don't know something that the audience do. So when the audience has a piece of information over a situation that the characters are not privy to, that's dramatic irony, right? Just when a situation is just ironic and the characters are aware that it's ironic, that's the opposite of dramatic irony, and I hate that they did that. I hate it.
Yeah. Like, come on, guys. You guys are writers. You should know this. Maybe Wally's just an idiot. Have you considered
Wally's,
that?
but he's not, is he?
Yeah, he actually kind of isn't. So Sasha's like, Croker, you and your team come up with a battle strategy, right? So already we're kind of seeing Sasha, starting to put her faith, right, into these other characters. Me and Anne are gonna go grab the gear, right? So she this is something that is huge for Sasha, right? Sasha, the character before who could not relinquish control to save her life, is now saying, I'm gonna trust this plan to you, right? Which is really huge. I think this was a really big, important Sasha episode. So
Sasha's neat.
Yeah, Sasha is neat. All right, so Croker is like, ready to go. She's like, all right, are we ready? Do we all understand? And then, everyone's like battle ready to go. But of course, Toady steps in and he's like, before we start, does anyone want a Post-it note? Right? He's like this like squishy little bab, and like Croker's like, all right, here's the plan, right? I do like how like Croker, she's like frustrated with Toady. She's like fed up with Toady, but she does also have like a little bit of patience with him, right? Like she does kind of also believe in him that he's gonna get there eventually. But like I do like how there's this little bit of like patience with Mrs. Croker with Toady, right?
We talk about the fact that Mrs. Croker likes Toady more than Sprig.
She likes Toady more than Sprig, yeah. I think she just like hates kids.
Yeah, well, I don't know if she does. Like Maddie is a kid.
That's right. Yeah, but
she hates Sprig.
She hates Sprig, and she's annoyed at Sprig and Ivy. And then she's explaining, right? We got to keep the pressure on until Anne and Sasha can get the goods, right? Toady, of course, is like, hesitant, right? As always, like as great as the other people are, Toady expresses his desire to want to be a lookout again, right? And Mrs. Croker's like, oh, this is like the sixth time you've been a lookout, and like all you ever want to do is be on the sidelines, right? And he's like, oh, that's what I'm good at. I can't do direct confrontation, right? And then there's this funny little gag with Maddie. But of course, like Toadie's cowardice, right, is really being played up here for gags, and we get this quick little montage to see like how much all these characters have changed, right? With Maddie like with the spikes on her glove, and then cutting to Loggle doing his 100 push-ups, and this is a really funny gag with Wally too, right? Like we see him whittling, and at first we think like, oh, he's just the same old squishy Wally whittling a cute little
turns it round.
He turns it around, and I like how the actual silhouette of the duck changes too as he turns it around. Like it suddenly has these spikes on his head, which doesn't make any sense, and then it's got this like muscly arm with the knife. It's just a fun little visual gag that got a good chuckle out of me.
It's what we love the show for.
We love it. We love this ridiculous humor. But the comfort zone is so comfy, Toady explains, but Croker says, I believe you're capable of more, right? And at first we think maybe it's gonna come out, but nope, back to the comfort zone, he says, right?
He has yet to evolve into a Giga Chad.
It's coming though. It is coming. So then we see, Sasha is giving all these like kind of hand signals to signify the plan and what's happening, right? And everyone just like nods. It's very silly, right? She does this like silly like face slap thing and these like silly hand movements, and everyone just like nods and gets it immediately, right? It's very, very silly, but they try to ambush this camp, and then of course no one's there. It's too quiet. Of course they are setting up this trap to try to take them down, right? Your loot is over here, right? It says in like these big signs and the arrows. So it's like, come on, guys, be a little smarter than this.
Lacking in a few brain cells this episode.
Lacking just a handful of brain cells here. But of course they get ambushed, and they do try to fight back right at first, but Anne and Sasha are the only ones able to escape. They're the only ones able to get away.
Lord
Meanwhile,
Humongous is just too strong.
exactly. The rest of everyone else has gotten captured, and Sasha, looks back and finds this out. She sees them all getting captured, right? And of course, Anne reacts to this with anxiety and with fear. She says the others got caught. We got to get back down there, right? But Sasha reacts in like pretty much the opposite way, right? She's like, absolutely not. If we go down there, we could get captured, and then the resistance could lose both our leaders, right? This is a pretty strategic, practical call, right? That Sasha is making here, right? Like she knows that if both Anne and Sasha get captured, like that's just bad news for everyone, right? And she says that she instead says that Croker's team is pretty tough, and she has faith, right, in their team to escape on their own. So we're getting this initial misunderstanding with Anne and Sasha, right? So Anne is kind of understanding this as like Sasha being uncaring, Sasha being apathetic towards them, whereas Sasha, right, is really just having faith in her team.
Yeah, I feel like if she didn't care, she would have left.
Right, exactly, right. So she's still
Like, she
here.
would have been like, well, that's that. Let's go have lunch.
Yeah. So instead, she decides that Anne and her are going to do some training, which is cool.
Shia saying she wasn't a fan of the Loggle abuse. Loggle has been abused literally since he showed up.
Yeah.
In the show. His
poor like the clock that he made right in the first episode that he spent like 12 years building or whatever that Anne like just destroyed. Yeah, Loggle gets the short end of the stick a lot. But he's got a beautiful bod now, so he's winning in some ways.
He's also a Giga Chad, and then Lord Humongous shows up.
Yeah, I love the return of this character, right? This Barry Willy Wonka character that we got in an earlier episode. How he's just kind of like he's like a chaotic evil kind of character, right? Like not necessarily siding with Andreas, but at very least self-interested and Barry the Candyman, they're all like super shocked to hear this, and he's like, dang right, I've got a sweet tooth for anarchy, right? What are you gonna
Joker?
Yeah. And then he decides that he's going to sell these guys, the Resistance Frog, to Andreas's army to make a quick buck, right? What are you, insane? And then he's like, look around, you tits, the whole world is insane, right? That suits us, doesn't it, Brian? And this was a funny gag, right? We've got this like big beefy soldier guy who has this like really high-pitched squeaky voice being like, I used to be a tax accountant.
It's the same one who had the toad who had the helmet.
Yeah.
Helmet.
That's right. And he says, now I drink the blood of my enemies and eat dessert before breakfast, or I eat dessert for breakfast. So of course, those two things are on equal weighing with each other, right? Drinking the blood of your enemies and eating dessert for breakfast is equally diabolical.
It's insane.
Insane behavior. That was really funny. That was a good gag. Nothing left to do except our fate, right? Toady says. Anyone want to write a post-it note for their will? Loggle is crying. Loggle's crying and is like, I'm too beautiful to die, which is pretty funny, right? So yeah, this whole like Loggle like just being really into himself is just a funny continued gag. Get it together, Croker says. Here's the plan, right? And she ends up coming up with a strategy to take out the Marauders, get the stolen weapons, and get out, right? So we know that Croker actually is a pretty competent leader, right? Just like Sasha said, that Croker really is kind of capable on taking this on, right? And she does this like little fake out, right, with the guard, where at first she's pretending to be this like sweet old lady, and then there's this funny moment where the guard is like, if I've been helpful, can you please fill out this comment card? And it's like, wow, I just really appreciate the humor of the show. It's really funny, right? And Croker just, bashes his head in, and Maddie grabbing the key. Good stuff.
I am very glad that they didn't go full Mad Max and dress up this weird clown dude in BDSM gear.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't have to do that.
They absolutely would have if they could have gotten away with it, though.
They would have. They only went half Lord Humongous. We didn't get the full Humongous.
Yeah. Toady, he tries to be the lookout as usual, and he tries to, stand up to this guy, but of course this guy just like grabs him like the little like squeaky toy that Toady is. Shut up, tadpole, he says. And then he throws Toady, right? And Toady ends up just squared up smacking Mrs. Croker right in the head and
Now
knocking.
she's dead.
And she's dead and kills her.
She's dead. She's never coming back. Cranial bleeding.
So
Gone.
she gets knocked out, right? And obviously this is a concern because she was the strategic wizard that was gonna get them out, right? And is like, haven't we waited long enough? She's nervous about it. Sasha's like, we haven't even waited 30 minutes yet. Give it some time. And Anne, saying this line, saying, easy for you to say, right? Which again, emphasizes just that disconnect that Anne has with Sasha, right? Because if we remember back in season 1, Sasha did not even consider the frogs to be people, right? And so Anne is having this misunderstanding that Sasha does not necessarily see the humanity of the frogs still, and sees them more as like soldiers, as like means to an end, right? And so Anne is like, easy for you to say if you don't actually care about them, but for her, right, she does deeply care about these characters and these frogs. And so yeah, this misunderstanding that Anne has for Sasha here, right, is what kind of leads to this this argument that they have.
While just sparring.
Well, just
because
sparring,
why not?
yeah. Why not? Why not?
How else are they going to spend the time?
Yeah, exactly. So Toady is worried, right, that he should have stayed in the comfort zone. He feels like he is to blame for this knockout, right? The rest of the gang is trying to come up with a strategy to get out, but Maddie's like, oh, it could take days or hours, right? And Loggle is just like, oh, what if I just did some push-ups to get the brain juices flowing, right? So it's clear that these guys, and then Wally too, right? He's just like, oh yeah, just get me to some boom shrooms, and then that's it, right? So these guys are obviously not as good at the strategy when it comes to this kind of stuff as, like, say, Mrs. Croker is, right?
They're a bunch of himbos.
Yes, absolutely. Toady, on the other hand, is like trying to like reel these guys in, right? He's trying to like get everyone to settle down, and this big beefy guard guy, right, ends up like antagonizing him and breaking his pencils and tearing his sticky notes and stealing his bow tie, right? And really just humiliating Toady. And I love how dramatic this is, right? Like Toady like falling down to his knees and like grasping at like the broken pieces of the pencil and the dirt, like, slipping through his fingers like in this really dramatic way. And him like looking at the post-it note from Mrs. Croker and then like looking over at Mrs. Croker dramatically. And then yeah, this whole hulking out bit was just so freaking funny.
This is how Giga Chads are made.
This is how they're made. I was cackling so hard throughout this entire bit. Time for me to be uncomfortable, he says. Yeah, man, this was so funny. He reminded me also of the little tiny frogs, right? If you remember from season 2, and they went to that tiny village.
And they just like, they lose it. And
they just lose their minds, right?
They kill those people.
Yeah, Toady like slapping Woggle's face, being like, let's put those muscles to good use already, right? And like, I was really proud of Toady stepping up here and actually like being the one to come up with the strategy, right? Coming up with the plan. Wally, get there, use the boom shrooms, right? Maddie, you use the distraction tactics. And I love that Toady, right? Like, I'll be the lookout, as in look out for my fist, right? That's what we call character development.
That's what we call a Giga Chad.
Absolutely. Yeah, so he ends up executing this plan, right? Loggle is digging to get to the boom shrooms, and I love this little added bit, right? One thing I really love about like these episodic episodes of the show is that every one of these side characters gets to really like use the full extent of their ability and the full extent of their strengths and their character to like pull off these strategies, right? So I really love like this little bit from Maddie, right? Like how she like uses the magic and like ends up like using the spider, right, to properly guide them to where they need to go, right? So like, yeah, like Loggle using his muscles, Maddie using her magic, Wally using his like affinity for blowing stuff up, right? Like all these characters are using their own personal strengths to execute these plans and execute these strategies. And like I really just love that the show is coming up with these plot lines that allows the characters to really use the full extent of their ability to use in the story.
Maddie whispering a spell into the spider's ear and possessing it kind of reminds me of Ashling doing the same thing with the cat
Oh
in
yeah.
Secret of Kells. And
Yeah, yeah.
she uses the cat to get into the place that she can't. I wonder if it's a reference, but I don't know. It would be nice if it was.
Yeah, that'd be cool. They could spend the time kissing. That's funny. Yes, the frog manatee. That's right, Shadow.
The Franity.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's right, Zoe. You're totally right. Croker was like a secret agent kind of person, so it totally makes sense why she's like really good at the strategy for this. I really love this shot as well, just this shot of the sword in the background, and Anne kind of looking back at the camp, and Sasha like looking at Anne, right? Like I just feel like this framing is just hits this dramatic beat. It helps hit this dramatic beat.
It's neat. Shout out to the storyboard artist.
Shout out to storyboard artists. They're so talented and so good at what they do. So Anne
horrendously underpaid.
Yes, new deal for animation. Hashtag. Yeah, so Anne is like, she finally expresses like where she thinks Sasha is coming from, right? She's like, it's easy for you to say if you just see these people as soldiers, right? But for me, they mean everything. And Anne finally gets this answer from Sasha where she says, it's not like that. And this is like a really important point for Sasha's character growth, right? That's our cue, she says when she hears the explosion. I like how Sasha, like, she knows the frogs and stuff well enough too, right? To know that, the explosion, that's our cue to go in, right? Really just goes to show how much Sasha has grown and developed, and her relationship with these frogs, right?
That's a very, that's a sentence I wasn't expecting to hear ever in my life.
This whole battle that the frogs have with the Marauders is super fun too. This little exchange between Barry and Maddie, because we saw them, right? They had like a kind of butting heads in the earlier episode. So I love that this is like kind of like almost Maddie's revenge, right? Like Maddie getting back at him as she turns this guy into a bird. Little did she know, or maybe she did know and she's just ruthless, but little did she know that she was sentencing this guy to death by turning him into a bird. Yeah. This guy is definitely dead at the end of the episode.
Like, he's Lord Humongous, and in the spirit of Lord Humongous, he's not alive anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Toady just absolutely slaying with his Giga Chad skills. Him pulling the beard off of this guy's face was freaking brutal. This was like so savage as he like puts the bow tie back on, right? And then when Anne asks where did you get those moves, Toady says it's actually how I dress the mayor every morning, which is just really funny. It's just that little gag that puts the cherry on the top for all of this.
In the original storyboards, he ripped his face off instead.
Oh yeah, you know that for sure. And then of course Wally setting off the boom shrooms to just take out their camp, right? It's just the little icing on the cake for their entire thing. Yeah, and then Sasha, Shadow. I'm definitely gonna get to that. So Sasha, she's praising Toady here, right? Like savage stuff. And even Croker here is praising Toady, right? Like impressive stuff, Toady. Like good job, and you always knew you had it in you. So yeah, I really love that even Toady, like this little side character that, was never a huge instrumental part of the plot, is still getting this like awesome character development in these like episodic episodes. I'm still in shock, they all say. And yeah, I feel like that's a good way to put it.
That's the desired effect of the Giga Chad.
Absolutely. That is exactly right, Morgan. This is exactly how alpha males are made. Anne says, you were right. Looks like they could handle themselves. And then, she kind of feels bad about what she said, right? And Sasha's like, it's okay. I know where you're coming from, right? It wasn't too long ago when I said, like, these slimy frogs don't matter, right? Exactly what Shadow Link has pointed out, right? And say, like, believe me, I do care about these frogs a lot. We've been through a lot, right? It really just goes to show the difference in how she was at the end of season 1, where she was like, they're just slimy frogs, they don't matter, right? And now she's like, we've been through so much stuff together, and I care about them so much. And I feel like that this episode really was there to kind of showcase how much Sasha has grown and how much she's changed. And just like that parallel between slimy frogs versus now we've been through some stuff together, right? Really just to hammer home that point of how much Sasha has grown and changed, and also demonstrating to Anne, right, how much she's grown and changed. And so I love that this arc for Sasha, like I think I said it in the last week's episode that I felt like Sasha's arc, this was still the middle of her arc, right? There's still more to go with Sasha. And so I do like that we're still getting more with Sasha, especially like in this episode and also in the next one too, right? We get more of Sasha in the next one too. So yeah, I'm really happy to see that. Really, really glad.
Sasha's new design rocks.
Yeah, I love it. I love her freaking tiara. It's awesome. I love the blue, right? Blue to kind of signify Anne's influence on Sasha with the colors. And yeah, it's just badass. It's awesome. She looks like a warrior princess.
She's definitely a friend of Mara.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And yeah, you know, she says like, you know, sometimes you have to stop and remember to have faith in the people around you. And I feel like that's got to be like a big theme too, right? And her saying like, you taught me that with Anne too, right? Yeah, just really hammering home the influence that Anne has had on Sasha. And then we get this like final little gag with the Marauders, right? And yeah, absolutely, it's exactly exactly it. Rooster Tamer, as Hop Hop once said, yes, except him, he's dead. This guy is absolutely dead. These guys eat him alive.
You've been cannibalized.
The holy chicken cluck at the end too is really funny. Oh man, good stuff. Yeah, rest in peace, Barry. Rest in spaghetti, never forgetty. Good to know you. Good to know you. Yeah, he's dead.
Was it good to know him? I don't know if it was.
He's 100% dead. And then we get to the second episode, right? Old Town Road, which is fun. A fun little reference to Old Town Road. And then yeah, so this is finally we're getting kind of more into plot stuff, right? So we're getting the return of the plot point that we got lingering from the Earth episodes, right? With the vase and the secret message getting following up on that basically. So Sasha, she comes in and she's like, we've been making really good progress, but don't even think about celebrating, right? These are just little tiny victories, and we need to do something. We need to actually come up with a plan, right, to take on Andreas, because like he's getting ready and we need to like get a move on, right? And I love this little line from Croker too, where like these guys are still like not quite in the war mindset, where she's like, what if we had free bagels on Fridays and Mondays? Oh, it's like, no, Croker, we're talking about war strategy.
I like how the characters are sometimes really smart and then sometimes just they're willing to give up their smarts for the sake of the gag.
Yeah. And then we see, Frobo once again being used as a projector. Anne puts her phone into Frobo's mouth, and Frobo, projects up the image, right, that they took of the vase and the secret message, right? And they read the secret message, seek the Mother of Olm, she will guide you to your destiny. And finally, we're following up on this plot point. Cryptic, what does it mean? We don't know, right? But we found this message on Earth, so it must be important, Hop Hop says. And then, of course, Polly and Sprig are the ones, right, to remember that they have, in fact, seen an Ohm before. And so this is something that I was like, come on, guys, why didn't you remember this when we first brought it up on Earth, right? But, of course, this show is... okay, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and address this. So I've been seeing a lot of criticism, and we talked a little bit about this last week, too, but I've been seeing more of it, so I want to just bring this up again, right, of... people kind of continuing to not like the fact that Marcy has not been brought up yet, or not been brought into the plot yet. And, I can understand the frustration. I can understand like acknowledging the fact that like Marcy has not even been brought up or really acknowledged other than just like one time.
That's just also not this show.
Yeah, but I also just want to remind like folks, like this is just not what this show is. It's not a serial show in the same way that Owl House is. Certain plot points are just not going to be brought up in episodes because this is an episodic show. This is a show that's meant to, it's meant to play reruns on Saturday morning and anyone can just like tune in and watch an episode, right? Like
it's only like a marginally more serialized than something like Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
Like it has serialized backdrops, and that's more or less as far as it goes.
Right, exactly. Like, it has continuity, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
that's the
definitely
thing,
has.
isn't it? Continuity.
Yeah, like, it has continuity, and there's definitely a plot going, and there's definitely a character arc going from episode to episode. But like, these individual serialized episodes, or these individual, episodic episodes rather, are meant to be self-contained stories. And so, like, I get the frustration at the lack of Marcy, but I think the people who have that frustration just kind of need to remember what show that we're watching, and like, also, I don't want to discount like how important these these episodic episodes are too, right? Like, we're seeing so much stuff from season 1 and season 2 like come back in season 3 in a really fun way, and we're also like getting these really important character moments, right? Like, this episode in particular was so important for Sasha's character arc, right? In Sasha's Angels, her acknowledging that she cares about the frogs was an important parallel to the end of season 1, and in this episode too, right? I feel like we get a lot of insight into Sasha and kind of maybe what the future of her character arc still has left in store for us. So yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
I don't want to harp on this too much, because I think that some of the criticisms are coming from a valid place, but I do also don't want to ignore how important these episodic episodes are as well. And also just that, like, this is just what the show is, right? Like, this is never going to be a show about Anne's like PTSD. It's never going to be a show about like Anne grieving her friends or whatever, right? And so, like, I think we just gotta remember that.
Yeah, like we said in the last stream, that's just not what this show is.
Yeah.
This is just an innocuous kid show, a smart, funny, innocuous kid show with the emphasis on the humor,
Yeah.
and just a bunch of loosely strung together episodic adventures.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so they decide to return back to Quarreler's Pass. Sasha's like, does anyone know of any less murdery ohms? And everyone's like, nope. And it's like, all right, murderous ohms it is then. So they go back, right? And then they actually see that there's this drill going on the outside, right? And there's like a bunch of more robots and stuff that are kind of strip mining this whole area, right? So again, kind of hammering home that environmentalist kind of piece that Andreas is like, obviously not caring about the land and the world anymore, and just kind of, destroying it for the sake of his own goals. They ask, how do we get the ohms to come out? And Polly's just like, yes, whine louder, that'll get them out, right? And then they do, in fact, come out, and they're like, hey, it's those frog siblings from earlier. They remember them, and they're like, okay, this time we are actually going to eat you, right? And your little friends, too. I like that. I like that little Scooby-Doo reference. And then Sasha, right, just continuing to be a badass, like, all right, go ahead and eat us. We'll just carve our way out of your stomachs, right? She says, pointing the sword at the Ohm's throat. And I love that the planters and Anne are just like in the corner, like, oh, yeah. It's just fun. But yeah, of course, they realize that they can't be as scary and threatening as they want to be, because these guys actually pose a threat now.
By that you mean Sasha poses a threat?
Yeah, absolutely. And ask them, do you know the mother of Ohms? And one of them is like, oh, how do you know Mother Ohm? Yo, you dum-dum, like, come on, focus, guys. I do like this, like, squabbling sibling dynamic between these two Ohms. They kind of remind me of like Cat Dog, not just because they're like,
oh god, yeah, Cat Dog. That's an antiquated reference.
Yeah. But yeah, they're just like fun. They're like, the kind of opposites that are stuck to each other, right?
Gotta love it.
Yeah. Mother Ohm is the oldest Ohm. She's the keeper of secrets and ancient prophecies, right? So we're getting reminded about the fact that there is like this prophecy that's going on. We've seen it referenced a couple of times in the past, right? There was like, I think the knight referenced the prophecy at one point. Andreas referenced the prophecy at one point. He was like, the prophecy is like becoming undone or whatever, right? So and I also did want to, actually, I'll save it for the end of the episode. But yeah, we know that there's this prophecy, right, that Mother Ohm supposedly knows about, and we get the reveal of the secret underground kind of Ohm society, right? That these two, we learn, have been banished from for one reason or another. But they of course agree, right? But like this, yeah. So this is an interesting parallel, right, to Sasha and her character, right? So these Ohms have gotten kicked out of their city, and they've been banished after making a mistake. And Sasha, right, really identifies with this. She really does see herself in the character arcs of these ohms, and so she's like, they threw you out after one mistake. That's totally not fair. Everyone
Especially
deserves a
since she
second
made
chance.
she made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so she's like, everyone deserves that second chance, that third chance, that fourth chance, right? So yeah, Sasha really seeing herself, a lot of herself in these ohms, and that's kind of what motivates her, right, to kind of help them. So they agreed to take them back, and also she kind of feels like, if you guys help us, you're helping, stop the end of the world, and they will have to acknowledge you for that, right? So they
Well, you'd
and
like to think anyway.
you would like to think, right? Uh, I love this little gag too, right? Like they stumble across this like ancient writing, and Sprig's like, "What does it say?" And this one's like, "Steve's a jerk," and the other one's like, "Come on, we're almost there," right? Just ignoring
It's
it.
just like ancient bathroom stall
Exactly,
graffiti.
graffiti. Exactly. So we get the reveal of this like ancient kind of underground society, right? And then the guards show up and they're like, Lysla, Egwin, what are you two doing here? You're exiled, right? And you guys brought strangers, and Parisia is not gonna like this, right? Parisia, we get introduced to this new character. She presides over the city, and this is funny, right? Hop Hop's like, is she a warm, sweet-natured ohm who will help us in any way that she can? And
Nope.
then it's like, well, you're about to find out. Definitely not, right? Definitely not. Sprig can't help but just touch everything. That's just his nature, right? And then we get this like earthquake, this tremor, right? And we find out that these earthquakes have been wreaking havoc on the city for weeks. We obviously know, since we saw that drill on the outside, that that's probably what is causing it. Water's being diverted, blah blah blah. It's obviously affecting them deeply. This whole kind of secret society, this Ohm Society. Oh, actually, before I say that, just want to acknowledge that because the city is breaking down, the sunlight is starting to seep in, right? And the sunlight is harmful for the Ohms. It does actually like burn their skin. We find out here, right? And then they kind of are like, have you tried asking for help? Have you tried like going out, right? And obviously they don't want to associate with the outside. And then when they have this like kind of confrontation with this Paritia character, and she is like in denial, right? She's like, oh, we'll be fine, even if there's something going on out there, like it's not going to affect us. It really did remind me of like Avatar: The Last Airbender and the whole there's no war in Ba Sing Se, right?
Involved,
It's
so yeah.
it's a little bit of that like denial for the sake of like not wanting to get involved in a conflict. But of course, Sasha, she tries to stand up for them, and it's interesting, right? Like it's interesting how Sasha stands up to this character, and like she sees like her own struggle reflected in these Ohm characters, and because of that, seeing herself, that's what kind of leads her to stand up for them, right? And so it's interesting to me. I've seen a couple people kind of theorize that maybe this had something to do with like Sasha's upbringing, like maybe her parents were the type of people who like would not give her a chance, right? But of course it also has to do
With her
um
relationship with Anne,
with her
yeah.
relationship with Anne. Absolutely. So yeah, this lady is just like a war machine, whatever, we'll be fine. There's no war in Ba Sing Se, whatever, we'll be fine, right? This is the Ohm way, and she ends up like kicking them out, right?
I guess you could say they're going their own way.
Got him. But yeah, of course, Sasha sees like her own arc and her own relationship with Anne, um, in the arcs of these ohms, and decides that she wants to help them, right? Which also is really huge for Sasha. Sasha in the past might have not given a rat's ass about them. So they end up like doing their best. They have to go and try to go save the city by stopping the drill. There's a fun little gag with these like stink beetles. Oh, don't worry, you'll only smell bad for 5 days, or was it 5 years? um, just gotta throw in the gags every once in a while. Good stuff. So the team ends up, attack Plan Epsilon, continuing with Sasha's kind of military strategic commando ways. The Ohms want to help, but Sasha's like, no, you guys, the sunlight's too strong, we'll take care of it, right? But when they end up getting to the drill machine, they like just try a bunch of buttons. Sprig is like, try password 12345. It was worth a shot, right? So
they didn't even stop to try 54321.
Come on, guys, you always gotta try forwards and backwards at least once. But then these two characters, the Ohms, right, are like, oh, come on, we have to do something, right? And they, end up braving the burning sunlight to make a stand, right, and actually stop this drill. And Sasha like sees this, right? She sees this kind of like this desperation, this sacrifice that they're making, right? And it really does like compel Sasha, like it really hits close to her. These two end up actually do end up stopping the drill. This is like a pretty dramatic moment, right, where they end up stopping the drill, and it kind of breaks down and destroys a bunch of stuff, and they end up actually falling back down into the city, right, with the drill. And Sasha is trying to support them. She's like, I can't believe you guys did that. She's like trying to be by their side essentially, right? And they have this line where like, even if they don't welcome us back, like it's still going to be our home. And I wanted to draw some attention to that line in particular because I just thought it was interesting, because there's a lot of theories going around about like, is Sasha going to stay back in Amphibia? Is she going to go back to Earth with the rest of them at the end, right? So I just think it's interesting that this idea is kind of being brought up here, where like, even if we're not welcome here, it's still going to be our home. And because there's so much like parallel between Sasha and these Ohms in this episode, I wonder if that's going to be a future parallel for Sasha in a later episode as well.
That's an interesting thing to bring up. I hadn't even thought of that, actually.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's just interesting to think about. And is like, it's gonna be really hard to deny the existence and deny this now, right? And of course, I don't know if this is like a commentary on the current climate of information and disinformation, but even with this drill fallen right in front of her, she's like, yeah, this doesn't prove anything,
it's
right?
A hoax.
Fake news. God damn it. Yeah, it's
and
yeah, Sasha just being like, what do you think that they like just did all this for show? And it's like, yeah, maybe they injured themselves on purpose to protect us, right? And like Sasha is so freaking mad about like this continued denial, and like especially at the fact that these characters like sacrifice so much, right? Like they burn their skin, they like are in shambles, they're hurt, they did so much just to protect their city, and like the fact that they're still being like questioned and denied, right? It obviously hits really close to home for Sasha. It hits like a personal note for her, right? And I really identify with that, right? Like I really hate when people are so freaking stubborn and like so stuck in their ways and like so unwilling to like see the truth, right? Like I understand Sasha's frustration here, and I love that Sasha, like, she has this like confrontation, right? Like, you are the biggest moron I've ever met, she says with her finger pointing, right? Like, I love that. I love how Sasha is just like standing up for the right thing, right?
We live to see it.
Yes, absolutely. And Anna's actually kind of like unsure at first. She's like, whoa, maybe this isn't the best idea. But I think Sasha has like learned that like doing the right thing, right, is more important than whatever. She's really kind of internalized that, I feel. They help the Ohms, come out, even if this city won't have you, Wartward will. And Spring's like, we will, which is quite funny. But of course this Parisia ends up coming back, right? And she Sasha's confrontation did actually get through to her, and ended up kind of like questioning, like, okay, maybe you do have guts, especially the fur-clad one, right? I haven't been talked to like that in 500 years, and it kind of shook me up, right? So it's actually it's very similar to Darius, right? In the last episode, like, hey, I was expecting you to just like take it, but the fact that you actually stood up to me, like, I'm impressed. So yeah,
except Darius is way better. Let's not sully Darius's good name by comparing him to this actual flat earther.
Darius is daddy, and we'll never deny that. But then, this character is impressed and ends up, saying, "Okay, you guys can get access to the city, and we'll go ahead and take you to Mother Ohm, right?" But of course, she says like under constant supervision, which is quite funny. But yeah, so we actually do end up ending this episode on a bit of a cliffhanger, right? So they end up being led to the Mother of Ohms, and Sasha and Anne have this cute little fist bump here. And I did want to just kind of acknowledge this really quick, because the doors close behind them, and it's hard to see. It's hard to see in the actual episode, but someone actually managed to pull this out and pull out the image on Twitter. So I wanna just pull this up just so that we can all look at it. And let me go ahead and do this so that we can all like actually take a proper look at it, right? So this image is actually on the door as it closes behind it. So this a lot of people have some theories that this has to do with the prophecy, right? So these three characters appear to be drawn on this like wall, and of course it very much does look like Anne, Sasha, and Marcy, very similar at least. So we know that they have something to do with the prophecy, right? And it's interesting to me that this prophecy is in this Ohm city, and I feel like we're finally gonna get some lore dumps, I think, in the next episode when we finally get to meet the lumps. We'll get the lumps, and we know at some point as well we're gonna get some Andreas backstory. I know that like that's been in some of the promo material as well, so maybe that has to do something with the prophecy as well. So yeah, I'm really curious and I'm really interested to see where this is gonna go. I think these two episodes were really awesome and really instrumental in developing Sasha's arc and continuing her kind of redemption arc and her internal struggle that, doesn't disappear. It's still very much there, right? So I like that we're still getting that struggle. I know that some people are worried about Marcy and the fact that she has not really been in the plot yet, other than Olivia and Yunan. And to those people, I would say, like, I mentioned this in my Discord server the other day, but like I do have faith. I have faith in the writers that they'll be able to deliver us a satisfying arc for Marcy. I don't think Marcy needs that much time. Like I feel like we can get Marcy's arc in an episode or two. Like there's a lot of people who are like, oh man, like they're just gonna have Marcy in the finale and it's like not gonna be satisfying and it's not gonna be enough. And like I kind of disagree with that. I feel like we'll get a satisfying arc with Marcy in the episodes she shows up in. I feel like it doesn't need to be in every episode to get a satisfying arc with Marcy. So but yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I still think that there's going to be some sort of internal conflict with Marcy and the night before, they have a confrontation with Sasha and Anne, but we'll see, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how that confrontation ends up playing out. Did you have any theories or anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap this up, Tom?
I have absolutely no theories. My head is empty.
Okay.
I'm a big idiot.
The sideways. Shadow says the sideways eye on her necklace is like the eye on the core. That's interesting. I didn't make that connection. So yeah, maybe there's some sort of connection with the ohms and the core and something, right? I mean, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. If you guys have any theories or any ideas or predictions, I would love to see them in the Discord server. In the off time, please keep me in the loop of what your theories are, because I think some of you have some really, really fun and interesting theories. But yeah, I guess my only theory at this point is like there's some parallel, right, between the Calamity trio of the girls and the Calamity trio of Andreas and that frog and the pink frog and the green toad. So yeah, there's some sort of parallels going on here with this prophecy, and I guess we're gonna get to see more of what that is once we learn what the prophecy is in the next episode.
Yeah, and I do agree with everything you say. Like I do think it's going to be resolved in some way that's satisfying.
Yeah.
And I still can't quite understand what the impetus is for people kind of wanting this show to be something that it quite literally has never been.
Right. Right.
That's the thing that confuses me. It's not like the gears have shifted at all. Like this show has never been
exactly
that show.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I've been seeing some people being like, oh, like season 2 was so like plot driven and there was so much Marcy in season 2. And it's like, yes, there was more Marcy in season 2, but interestingly, there was less Sasha. So now we're getting a lot more Sasha. Also, like, if you go back and watch season 2, it really was. There's still a lot of episodic stuff in season 2. Like
It's a ton of episodes.
there's
It's
a
all
lot of
episodic
episodic
stuff.
stuff.
It's like, again, it's got continuity, but it's still
Yes.
episodic. Like
Yes.
there's
Yes.
yeah, True Colors was like a shocking episode, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but yeah, we won't get too bogged down by it. You know, I think I have a feeling like it's gonna play out in a satisfying way. I'm really enjoying season 3 so far. I feel like every single character driven episode has been really nice. Like especially with these side characters like Toadie and whoever, right? Like I like that we're getting these rounding outs of like even just the side characters because there's still characters in the show too, right? And it adds to Sasha's character arc and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like everything is still very purposeful. Everything is still very moving in the right direction. And yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I'm enjoying season 3, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
I'm excited to see more Giga Chad.
I'm excited to see more Giga Chad Toadie for sure. But yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. And yeah, absolutely, Shia. This show definitely has a kind of adventure of the week progression for sure. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Thank you guys so much again for hanging out today. This was super fun. I know we were a lot shorter this time than last week, but we had a lot less kind of theory fodder. This week was a lot more low key, a lot more wholesome, a lot more just character driven, and I really enjoyed that. I liked kind of having this little bit of downtime in between like the intense episodes. So next week we will be back to talk about the next episodes of both Owl House and Amphibia. I'm excited to see, how this plot plays out. I'm excited to see these characters continue on their journeys, and I'm excited to hang out with all of you again next week on Sunday at 11 a.m. PST. Yeah, join the Discord server, share your theories in there, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff as well. Tom and I are working on my next analysis video as well, so hopefully that should be coming up in the near future. It's happening, it's in progress, and I'm really excited for it. We're coming up with some really cool ideas, and I think it's going to be really special. So I hope that y'all will check that out when that is out as well. Yeah, thank you Shadow, thank you Shia, thank you Zoe.
I have a plug. I have a plug. I'm desperate to do a plug. This is quite important.
Please go ahead.
So, obviously, Amphibia has been sort of dipping its toes into some sort of environmental themes, and this is obviously super pertinent to the reality of the world we're living in. Canada is very soon going to be reviewing a huge oil project, a huge fossil fuel project that would really set back our quest to balance out the carbon emissions. It would really set us back hugely. But if you go on my Twitter, that's at TomNell7. If you go on my Twitter, you will see my most recent tweet underneath my pinned tweet is a tweet that I've copied from Greenpeace. So Greenpeace are doing a media campaign to just draw attention. If you were to just don't retweet it, just copy the text in the tweet and tweet that text, right? If you're in any Discord servers, share this information. The best we can get this information out there, the better.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to say. So again, to round up, big oil project that we want to stop. It's under review in Canada. Copy the text in my most recent tweet and tweet it.
I'm going to go ahead and put the tweet. Oh no, Shia's already way ahead of me. She already put the tweet in the chat. Thank you so much, Shia. But yeah, go check that out. Go definitely, help the Earth. If you guys care about Andreas freaking up Amphibia, you guys should definitely care about our real world leaders freaking up Earth as well. So please, do what you can. Spread the love. Thank you for bringing that.
If you're on any servers or anything, just share this information around. It's really important that you do. We have a voice and we can use it, and it's so important that we use it.
Yes, absolutely, 100% agree. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Tom. Yes, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you, Shia, for dropping all those links. Thank you, Magical and Shadow and Zoe and Rooster and everyone else who hung out today, and Morgan. Thank you all so much for hanging out today. I had a blast. Really excited to hang out again next week as well for the next week's discussion. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye.